Try it here. Let's try it now. All right, we had some technical difficulties there, chat. And I sincerely do apologize to y'all for the technical difficulties that we did have. My OBS was freezing. And that's not ideal for the stream. So let's go ahead and get this thing back started, y'all. I'm gonna get back live on YouTube. I'm gonna go live on Twitch as well. Let's catch up.
They've shown such incredible courage in speaking out, in demanding accountability to bring the predators and pedophiles to justice. The Epstein Files Transparency Act required your Department of Justice to disclose the perpetrators connected with Epstein's criminal activities and to redact the information of survivors to protect their identities. Let me show you what actually happened. First, in violation of the law, your department has shown a pattern of redacting the names of powerful predators. Here behind me is one example of an email from Epstein to a man whose name was redacted. The email reads, quote, "Where are you? Are you okay? I loved the torture video." Only after members of Congress demanded that we see the unredacted files did the world learn the name of this individual, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayman, the chairman and CEO of a company that had financial ties to President Trump's business and personal ties to Trump's advisor, Steve Bannon.
Oh, shit.
Second, the survivors were not similarly protected, also in violation of the law. Here is another email titled Epstein Victim List. We have blurred the names of the survivors for their protection, but your Department of Justice initially released this list of 32 survivors' names with only one name redacted, along with numerous files that disclose not only the names, the emails, and the addresses of survivors, but also nude photographs and even the identities of Jane Does who had been protected for decades until your department released their names. Survivors are now telling us that their families are finding out for the first time that they were trafficked by Epstein. In their words, quote, "This release does not provide closure. It feels like a deliberate attempt to intimidate survivors, punish those who came forward, and reinforce the same culture of secrecy that allowed Epstein's crimes to continue for decades." To the survivors in the room, if you are willing, please stand. And if you are willing, please raise your hands if you have still not been able to meet with this Department of Justice. Please know for the record that every single survivor has raised their hand. Attorney General Bondi, you apologized to the survivors in your opening statement for what they went through at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. Will you turn to them now and apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information?
Congresswoman, you sat before, Merrick Garland sat in this chair twice.
Attorney General Bondi,
No, can I finish my answer?
No, I'm going to reclaim my time because I asked you a specific question that I would like you to answer, which is, will you turn to the survivors? This is not about anybody that came before you. It is about you taking responsibility for your Department of Justice and the harm that it has done to the survivors who are standing right behind you and are waiting for you to turn to them and apologize for what your Department of Justice has done.
Members get to ask the questions, the witness gets to answer in the way they want to answer. The Attorney General can
That's
respond.
not accurate, Mr. Chairman.
Because she doesn't like the answer.
Wait a minute.
Mr. Chairman,
why
I have asked
didn't she ask Merrick Garland this?
I am
Twice,
reclaiming
when he
my
sat in my
time, and
chair.
when I
will
reclaim my
continue to
time,
answer.
it is
Mr. Chairman, the
my-
gentlelady's
I'm
reclaimed
I'm
her
not going
time.
to get in the gutter for her theatrics.
The time belongs to the gentlelady. The gentlelady has 17 seconds.
Thank you.
That's crazy.
You're not going to answer this question, so let me just
Chairman,
say this.
I'll direct it to
What a
you.
massive
No, I'm
cover-up.
answering a
Mr.
question.
Chairman, will you restore her time? The witness
I'm
is
not going to get
interrupted.
in the gutter with this woman.
Stop the
She's
time
doing theatrics.
and let me have my time.
The gentlelady from Washington controls the time. The gentlelady has 17 seconds. You can proceed with your final
Thank you.
17 seconds.
What a massive
crazy.
cover-up this has been and continues to be. Donald Trump made the release of the Epstein files the center of his political campaign because he thought it would benefit him. Then you got into office, Attorney General, claimed to have a client list, only
Regular
to
order.
then say that there was no list.
Rick, what's up,
Your
baby?
deputy,
Time-
Todd
the time of
Blanche,
the-
met alone
time of the
with
gentlelady
Elaine
has- the
Maxwell
time of the
and
gentlelady has
transferred
expired.
her to a minimum security prison. And now you continue
the
the
time of the
cover-up.
gentlelady
And I
has
wish
expired.
that you would turn around to the survivors who are standing right behind you and on a human level
Chairman,
apologize
Chair now
to them
recognizes the chair.
on what you have done.
Time of the
I
gentlelady
yield
expired.
back.
The gentlelady, you have no time to yield back.
Theatrics.
We appreciate that. We appreciate the thought. And I would argue the central issue in the last election, the presidential election, was securing the border. The gentleman from Arizona who knows something about securing the border is up for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Attorney General Bondi, for being here today. In 2022, Lafarge, which is a French cement company, pled guilty in U.S. federal court to participating in a criminal conspiracy with ISIS. That conspiracy contributed to the deaths of U.S. service members fighting in Syria during Operation Inherent Resolve. As part of the plea agreement, Lafarge was...
I ain't gonna hold you now. That part I did catch right before I had to shut down the system. I'm like, damn, I had to restart, run a quick errand, and come on back. It's the first time here I'm in hip hop lobbies. I'm actually gonna skip forward a little bit past the boring part to catch up in real time, because I do feel that real time we're gonna catch a lot more action. So I'm gonna skip this forward about 30 minutes. Let's get this live and popping.
Last year, yeah, he did a letter complaining about the plea deal for Maxwell, but it wasn't a big deal. Then we get a new administration, and all of a sudden it's a big deal, and they feign concern, they're upset, they're investigating. They had all these years and all this time. And in fact, Stacey Plaskett, and we all know that name, when they had a congressional hearing, Democratic member, were taking texts from Epstein on questions to ask to go after Trump. So Epstein was using her Democratic colleague as a tool to go after President Trump. Just everybody keep that in mind. And then we talk about ICE and how horrible it is. And there are concerns. Everybody wants everything to go right. Nobody ever wants to see somebody die.
Facts.
And they complain about it.
That's
But
facts.
at the same time, hypocrisy, they encourage constituents to go after the ICE agents, to challenge them, to hurt them, to attack them. And that doesn't make sense. That's hypocrisy. And then we hear about the concern of, going after Democrats, that the legal system, that judiciary and Department of Justice is going after Democrats. But they literally rework the legal system under Alvin Bragg and Letitia James to go after Republicans and those sympathetic to Republicans. So, be careful when you accuse others that you're not guilty yourself. Be careful of what you say, because you got a history, and it's easy to go over it. I just want to talk about where we were and where we are now. We had over 10 million illegal crossings in the past between 2020 and 24. Over 10 million. There's probably a much bigger number. I'm being conservative. We were told the people weren't dangerous, but they were, General. They were dangerous, many of them. More than 300 individuals on the terror watch list during that time. Violent criminals came across, as we saw consequences where mothers and fathers, daughters and sons, children were raped, murdered, hurt, abused, beaten, trafficked, all from the drugs. My God, the drugs they brought into our babies in this country. 73,000 illegals with criminal histories, 20,000 with convictions of assault, robbery, and sex offenses, 13,000 convicted murderers, offenders. It was madness. It was insanity. It's bizarre. It's perverse. What in God's name were you doing? So we finally are cleaning this up now. We're finally trying to make it right and safe for our people. So my questions are this. General, do you believe in removing criminal illegal aliens from our communities will save American lives?
Yes, and given the cases that you just discussed, that's proof of it every single day. President Trump is committed to that. This entire cabinet is committed to that and making and keeping Americans safe.
Thank you. Would you agree that, and thank you for doing that, would you agree that allowing individuals with known criminal histories to enter and remain in the United States, we knew this back then, they knew it. Would you agree that creates serious risk to our public safety? I know the answers, but let's just say them clearly.
Yes.
Would you agree that when dangerous individuals are released instead of detained, and they were released over and over and over again, and these are the real issues. This is really what America cares about. They want their children and their families to be safe. Do you think if you release them instead of detaining them, that crimes will happen because of that?
Absolutely.
Would
And
you
it
agree
has.
that, I'm sorry.
And it did.
And it did, thank you. Would you agree that cooperation between, and this is a biggie, and I'm gonna ask you to elaborate on this. This is a big deal. This is why some of the problems we're seeing in some of the places like Minnesota are happening. That cooperation between federal and local enforcement, which we always used to have, helps remove violent offenders from our communities, that we should be a team.
Yes.
And can you elaborate on that a little bit? In other words, when the local enforcement is forced by the politicians, not their fault, not to do their job and not cooperate, why does it create the situations that we see where we have need for crowd control? By the way, they're not peaceful. Those are not peaceful protesters. We know what a peaceful protester is. When you spit on law enforcement, when you push them, when you hit them, when you beat their car, if you can answer the question, thank you.
Gentleman's
And then
time's
I'll
expired.
yield back.
You may answer the question.
Thank you. Yes, I spent 4 days myself in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. What I will say about some of these sanctuary cities, some of these democratic cities, law enforcement, they quietly want to work with us. I've spoken to law enforcement in multiple cities who want to work with us. And yes, we're going to do everything we can to keep our citizens safe, whether or not these Democrat-controlled sanctuary cities do or don't.
And damn it, that's what really matters. I
Gentleman's
yield back.
time is expired.
Mr. Chair, I have a UC.
Oh,
Ms. Crockett from Texas is recognized for UC.
Thank you so much. Donald Trump's approval rating implodes on his strongest issue. This is from Newsweek today. It says 40% of people
Thank you.
approve of
You don't
Trump's
need to
handling
read
of
the article to
immigration
us.
and border security, while 60% disapprove.
Without
That
objection,
is a net
admitted.
drop
Now I
to
recognize the
negative
gentleman
20.
from California, Mr. Liu.
that is hilarious.
Thank you, Attorney General Bondi, for being here today. I'm going to show you two photos.
Thank you.
I'm going to show you two photos of former Prince Andrew.
I know there's a double echo there.
Prince
My bad,
Andrew
y'all.
attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. Under the law Congress passed, you were allowed to redact photos to protect the victims of Epstein's sex trafficking operation.
What is it?
You redacted the photos of this victim's face because you were following the congressional law. Is that correct?
I'm sorry that we redacted the victim's
Because you were
face?
following the congressional law, correct?
Yes.
Oh, shit.
You have now established that please put the photos back up, that we are looking at a sex trafficking victim. Under the Federal Victims Trafficking Protection Act, not only is Jeffrey Epstein guilty, but anyone who patronizes Epstein's sex operation is also guilty of a crime. That's why I find it absolutely despicable that you sought to protect Epstein's clients, like former Prince Andrew. Last July, you closed the case on Epstein's abusers. The July 2025 memo from your Department of Justice stated, quote, "We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties." These two photos, please put the photos back up. These two photos staring you in the face are evidence of a crime and more than enough evidence to predicate an investigation against former Prince Andrew. So I ask you, Attorney General Pam Bondi, why did you shut down this investigation last July, and why have you not prosecuted former Prince Andrew?
I don't believe you asked Merrick Garland these questions
What the
when
fuck?
he was Attorney General and set before.
I agree with you.
You
I'm
twice.
reclaiming my
Did you?
time.
Never
I agree with
mentioned
you. I agree with you. During
Were
the
you not
Biden,
here
during
then?
the Biden administration, I called for people looking at Epstein files. Merrick Garland dropped the ball, as did Attorney General Bill Barr, as did Alex Acosta, a whole string of failures. But you are in charge. You have the power to change things, to hold these men accountable, and you're doing the opposite. You're protecting them. So I want to move on to another man.
Can I answer
Donald
that,
Trump.
though?
I want to move on to another
Can I answer
question.
your question about protecting
You
Prince
answered the
Andrew?
question.
You're saying no. I love this.
I want to discuss another man, Donald Trump, who is all over the Epstein files, like former Prince. Here's the video.
Oh, they about to hit me. Nah, you two about to hit me for that. I gotta wait for the music to stop. There we go.
Former Prince Andrew, Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
Oh, here we go.
This is so ridiculous.
What?
And that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency. He's the one that asked that those files
I'm reclaiming my time.
be
I got your
released.
answer. You said you
President
evidence.
Trump asked
Chairman,
that
please
the
stop the
parties
clock.
sign
Please stop the clock.
the
Time, board,
legislation.
baby.
This is
Time,
this
I'd like
is
to reclaim my
ridiculous.
time.
time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay. I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the
Shut
FBI's
up,
National
bitch.
Threat Operations Center, because I believe you just
Damn
lied.
soundboard.
There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever
Oh.
accuse me of a
I
crime.
believe you just
Oh,
lied
shit.
under oath, and this is on videotape. You said there's no evidence of a crime. I'm showing you. Here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop a limo and hurt Donald Trump.
This is wild.
He met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell, so should the men who patronized his operation. And as we say here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing
Time of the
concludes.
gentleman has expired.
They're gonna try to catch a boy.
May I respond?
Yeah, I don't know how you respond. No one can.
I
Oh,
did not
can
ask a
respond.
question,
He
Mr.
doesn't
You're
want
allowed
to talk
to.
about
I did
the
not ask a
horrific crime
question.
in California. He
Oh,
does
shit.
not want to talk about
I did not ask a
crime
question.
in his
She
state.
can't just
Attorney
ad-lib
General.
stuff.
Going
I
after
did not
Donald
ask a
Trump.
question.
Meeting will be in order. The gentleman has yielded back his time. I think our next witness will be more than happy to let
Game time.
the Attorney General.
Madam
respond.
Attorney General, would you like to?
Gentleman from Alabama is recognized for 5
Woo,
minutes.
Alabama, let's go. Welcome to the stream, y'all.
Thank you, Congressman. This is what Congressman Liu didn't want to talk about.
Uh-oh.
He didn't want to talk about all the crime that is happening in his state.
You say a lot of tricky
California
words.
refuses to honor
You got nothing to say?
detainees because of its dangerous sanctuary
All right, y'all, he's
city
on the soundboard.
policies.
All right.
The refusal means California has released 4,561 criminal illegal aliens onto its street. The crimes of these aliens include 31 homicides, 661 assaults,
That has nothing to do with it.
574 burglaries, 184 robberies, 1,489 dangerous drug offenses, 379 weapons offenses, and 234 sexual predator offenses. That's why they are deflecting. That's why they're trying to talk about the Epstein files. That's currently happening in his home state.
Attorney General, thank you for being here, and I wanted to make sure you had time to respond. I'm going to change gears a little bit. In October, when you were testifying before the Senate, I know you and my friend Senator Katie Britt discussed concerns of infiltration of the illegal Chinese vapes into our country. As a father of three, obviously, I'm worried a little bit about this, and I believe that many parents in the country share our similar concerns. Can you provide an update on DOJ's work in this space over the past few months?
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up. We're talking about the vapes. And this should be an issue where both sides of the aisle can work together on. Parents need to understand, children need to understand that so many of these are being manufactured in China, sent to our country, and have the potential to be laced with lethal drugs. We've seen an overdose. We need to get on the front end of this before we have another crisis and children are dying. I've partnered with Secretary Kennedy, of course, at HHS on this matter, but thank you for bringing it up. You know, they're selling these things as flavored vapes illegally in many stores around the country. Secretary Kennedy and I actually we went and did something on this, and it was sadly the day that Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And so it didn't get a lot of attention, nor should it have after that happened. But yes, we're continuing to work on that, and thank you for bringing that up. That's happening in all of our states, and I would ask everyone here, I know Congresswoman Ross was just nodding, it's happening in every state. And not only are they laced with THC, many of these vapes, but they could be laced with fentanyl. We have had a child, I wish I could think of the state it was in, but we have already had someone overdose. And we have to get together on this, and we have to get on the front end of this. And I would love to work across the aisle on this to protect our kids. How many school kids do you see now vaping? And it's not only, I believe a vape has 20 cigarettes, but you know, that's one vape is 20 cigarettes. I believe it is.
It's a problem. My wife's a teacher. She's a vice principal at a school. It's actually an issue inside the schools where we actually have kids not only smoking weed, but vaping inside the schools, and they don't have really ways to detect it now. There are technologies out there that can help teachers get out there and detect it, but a lot of schools can't afford those technologies. So you end up having a lot of students going to school vaping, selling vapes, all the other stuff. So this is an issue, not just in Florida schools, but throughout the country. So I'm happy the Attorney General did address that. Appreciate y'all spending y'all lunchtime with your boy. It's 12 o'clock. Let's get back to Attorney General Pam Bondi, testifying before the House Judiciary Committee.
The majority of them are manufactured in China.
Sure, and if you need additional resources, please let us know as you're going through the process. And then I'm going to change gears one more time on you. Under the Biden administration, there was a lot of confusion created when parts of the DOJ began treating software developers like financial institutions. Even when they did not hold or control anyone's money, they were simply building the technology. That uncertainty made it harder for Americans to build, innovate here at home. Earlier this year, the Deputy Attorney General issued a memo entitled Ending Regulations by Prosecution, a clear break from the Biden administration's approach, and I think it's important that that's a good step in the right direction, but can you talk a bit about how the DOJ is now putting that memo into practice, especially when it comes to making sure that people are just writing the software and don't control the user's funds, we don't want them treated as an unlicensed money, or they're not money transmitters, so.
Yes, and we're doing everything we can to protect the American people on that, and I would refer everyone to Deputy Attorney General Blanche's memo, and we're working as hard as we can on that topic.
Because we want to lead the way in the space on that, so we appreciate the help. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back 10 seconds.
Gentleman yields back. We'll recognize the gentleman from Arizona for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a number of UCs.
Gentleman can proceed.
Thank you. Bombshell new docs show Trump called police about Epstein in 2006.
Without objection.
Kamala Harris defends Biden administration decision not to release Epstein files.
Without objection.
Why weren't they released during the Biden administration?
Without objection.
House Democrat Stacey Plaskett exchanged texts with Epstein during 2019 congressional hearing.
Without objection.
New York judge allows Epstein victims' claims against Plaskett to proceed.
Without objection.
Hakeem Jeffries solicited funding from Epstein in 2013 after financier was convicted child sex offender.
Without objection.
Jeffrey Epstein was invited to dim fundraising dinner and to get to know Hakeem Jeffries by firm working with Brooklyn's Barack.
Without objection.
An email from Leslie Groff to Jeffrey Epstein concerning Hakeem Jeffries fundraising. Epstein file says Biden was replaced in 2019, question mark?
Without objection.
Thank you.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from California is recognized. Mr. Correa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Ms. A.G. Bondi. I agree with you. Our top priority should be protecting Americans. In my past life in the California State Legislature, I did a lot of work on solving sex crimes, passing legislation to update our codes. And I found that the biggest challenge to solving sex crimes is reporting them. Victims have to have the guts to stand up to report those sex crimes. But it's not easy. It's the most unreported sex crime there is. Crime there is sex crimes. It's painful, humiliating. A lot of time the victims don't think anything's gonna come out of their reporting these crimes. Then we have adults who as children were molested, boys and girls who will live in silence for the rest of their life. I believe the Epstein files are just one of many sex rings, sex crimes taking place in our society today. I hear 1,200 Epstein victims, some additional victims as young as 9 to 10 years old. The challenge I have today, what bothers me today about this hearing, Madam AG, is what's the message we're sending out there on Main Street? Shouldn't ask a question I don't know an answer to, but I'm gonna ask the victims behind you right now. First, can you please stand up? And then, can you please raise your hand if you think after everything you've heard today, you feel that our AG, the feds, have your back? Do we have your back? Raise your hand if you're confident that we got your back. And that's the issue, Madam AG. We've got to make sure that victims stand up and report the crimes. Otherwise, we're going to be taking a step backwards. Today, AI, cyber, social media, the new realm for people to be hurt, attacked sexually. These are the areas I'd welcome the opportunity to work with you on. It's not your problem, it's not my problem, it's our problem. But to have redacted files that are not showing us the names of these predators is wrong. These are very powerful people. This was a very expensive business, and we don't know who they are. I would imagine they're very prominent Republicans, very Republican Democrats, and we are covering up for them. We got to know what's going on out there, Madam AG. It looks like you want to say something. I'm going to give the opportunity to address my statement.
I look forward to working with you on any crimes involving child sex predators, children, and also cyber crimes. That is a tremendous problem now throughout our country. AI, you are correct. AI is causing great problems online we're working on that though. AI is an incredible tool, but it also can be fraught with peril with victims of crime. I've experienced that with someone I know who we've been trying to help. I look forward, though, to working with you on that and on cyber crimes. Can I?
Please, go ahead.
And as I said before, to any victims, we ask them to come forward to our office, and we want to work with them. I have never not worked with a victim, and I believe I've actually spoken to several of the
Madam, if I can reclaim my time, I only have a minute.
Behind me.
If I can reclaim my time. I just think we start out by making sure those redactions are unredacted, those Epstein files, to make sure that the public, according to the law, following the law, that those names in those files are made public. We have to make sure we tell those predators there is no place for them to hide, and if they commit the crime, they're gonna fry for it. It starts with showing us the names of the perpetrators in the Epstein files.
May I respond to that?
Sure.
Okay. So if any man's name was redacted that should not have been, we will, of course, unredact it. If a victim's name was unredacted, please bring it to us and we will redact it. We were given 30 days to review and redact and unredact millions of pages of documents. Our
Madam,
error rate is very low,
The
but there are
victims are
always
right
gonna be
behind you. We've got to
errors
convince
on
them
both sides.
that we're doing a
And
good
we're
job
doing everything
of
we can to help
protecting
the
them.
victims. We will
Thank
do
you,
everything
Mr.
we can.
Chair, I'm out of time.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from California, Mr. Kiley, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Madam Attorney General. I wanted to return to a point that the chairman raised at the beginning of this hearing, which is these jurisdictions.
Wait for shit to pop off really long. It's just
refuse
boring
to
right now,
offer-
Jack.
To honor detainer requests from Immigration and Customs Enforcement
Waiting for shit to really pop off.
sanctuary,
Excuse my creaky ass chair, too.
jurisdictions. Now, I know that you are
Gotta
not
work in the
involved
background.
directly in immigration operations per se, but you do deal with the legal issues surrounding these jurisdictions. So let's say we have someone who's here illegally, who has committed a crime that, like the thousands of people you mentioned in California, murderers, sexual predators, drug traffickers. If that individual is in detention in a jurisdiction that has a sanctuary policy where they do not honor ICE detainers versus in any other jurisdiction where they do, how does the nature of apprehending that person, how does the nature of ICE's involvement in that operation differ in those two circumstances?
Well, I believe you've seen that in Minnesota, where people were not cooperating with us. I believe there a lot of local law enforcement did want to cooperate, but we are doing everything in our power to arrest and deport illegal criminal aliens, and that is not going to stop under Donald Trump's administration. You know, why sanctuary cities are so dangerous, what we've seen in Minneapolis. Where do all the criminals go? The gangs, TDA, MS-13. Where are they going to go? They're going to go to a sanctuary jurisdiction because they believe they're protected, and that's not fair to the citizens of those cities.
Yeah, and this is a point that there at least used to be a lot of consensus on. The idea that, you know, it's better to do a handoff to the immigration authorities in a custodial setting rather than releasing them where they have to be apprehended in the community. This is Alejandro Mayorkas when he was before this committee, not exactly a paragon of border security, but he said, "I do not consider it in the service of public safety to release an individual into the community when that individual can be released to Immigration and Customs Enforcement for prompt removal." Now, his words are one thing, his actions are another. But when you have jurisdictions across the country, including my state of California, doing systematically precisely the thing that even Alejandro Mayorkas said threatens public safety, I mean, what does that say to you?
It's a danger to the citizens of your community, and thank you for fighting to protect them.
Absolutely. And you know, we're having this conversation right now in relation to Homeland Security funding. And I believe there are some common sense reforms that have been proposed that folks on both sides would agree make sense. But those reforms have to go hand in hand with reforming this reckless practice of refusing to cooperate, refusing to honor detainers, and declaring oneself to be a sanctuary. So I'm hoping that we can find bipartisan support for what has long been a bipartisan principle. I want to go to a second topic, which is the school board memo, which I know that you have rescinded. And it was initially promulgated by Attorney General Garland when he came into office with President Biden, essentially opening an investigation into parents who were showing up at school board meetings and expressing their views on COVID policies, masks, various other issues, and using the full apparatus of federal law enforcement and counterterrorism to go after these parents. Now, he said this was because there was an increase of threats, but when even his own FBI director, Christopher Wray, was before this committee, he said there was no evidence of an increase in threats. Yet nevertheless, when I asked him if he regretted the memo, Attorney General Garland said there was absolutely nothing wrong with the memo. Now, I take it you disagree with that, having now rescinded it?
Absolutely. That was one of the main focuses of President Trump and this administration. We will protect parents at school boards. We will protect children in schools. We will protect parents' rights for their children's education in our school system in this country. We will protect Christians. We will protect everyone who wants to freely protest. If Christians want to protest in front of an abortion clinic without being arrested, they will do so.
Thank you very much. And finally, I thank you for your efforts to step up the detection and rooting out of fraud. My home state is California. Any idea if there might be any fraud going on in California?
Here we go.
Well, we are establishing, as you have heard, a fraud unit, and I'm sorry you're having to deal with that in your state, but the cavalry's coming. And we have Colin McDonald, who is hopefully will be confirmed soon. We're working on Minneapolis. I don't know if you were sitting here when I said that, but California was right up there. I'm sorry to say for both sides of the aisle that California is right up there with fraud. It's out of control, but we are coming to your rescue. Donald Trump is coming to the rescue.
Well, thank you very much. And unfortunately, I think you'll find that what's happening in California pales in comparison to what's been going on in Minnesota. Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Actually, I think the gentlelady from Pennsylvania.
Gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, I'm here. On September 25th, President Trump signed a memorandum known as NSPM 7, purporting to address domestic terrorism. But Americans across the political spectrum were immediately alarmed by the memo's blurring of the line between unlawful conduct and constitutionally protected speech and activity, as well as its call to investigate, prosecute, and dismantle groups that the president and Stephen Miller described without evidence as, quote, an organized campaign of radical left terrorism. Now, counterterrorism experts were further alarmed by the administration's singular focus on left-wing extremism, combined with the sudden deletion from the DOJ website of decades of research and law enforcement analysis, which had concluded that right-wing extremism poses the greatest terrorism threat to Americans.
Oh.
The president's memo broadly and vaguely links violent conduct to ideologies, and it targeted specifically anti-American, anti-Christian, and anti-capitalist beliefs, as well as, quote, hostility to so-called traditional American views on family, religion, and morality, end quote. President Trump has repeatedly and openly, however falsely, tried to brand his political opponents with these sentiments listed in his memo. But as you know, as a lawyer, holding beliefs that the White House disagrees with is not a crime. And the statute defining domestic terrorism requires criminal acts, not just thoughts and ideas. That's why legal experts, nonprofit leaders, religious freedom, and civil rights advocates immediately raised the alarm that the new presidential directive was a politically motivated attack on civil society designed to silence those who disagree with the administration. So, Ms. Bondi, Section 3 of that memo directed you, as Attorney General, to submit to the President and Stephen Miller a list of groups or entities whose members are engaged in acts that meet the definition of domestic terrorism. And then on December 4th, you directed the FBI to work with a variety of law enforcement entities to compile a list of groups and entities engaged in such acts.
That shit boring, bro.
On January 3rd, 2026, and to update that
Please,
report every
I'm
30
more
days
pizzazz than a
thereafter.
question.
So can we assume that you or persons under your direction at the Department of Justice have prepared that list of groups or entities who are designated as domestic terrorist organizations?
No,
And
I
I
can't
just
do it,
remind
bro.
you that's a yes or no question. Did you
Well,
prepare
I'm not
the
going to
list?
answer it yes or no, but
Oh.
what I will say
Fuck.
is I know Antifa is part of that. I
Okay.
will talk to you
You wanna
about
clap back
that.
every time,
And
bitch?
on
My time,
February
I
5th,
asked
told you.
2025,
whether you
an
prepared
Antifa member
a
was
list.
arrested in Minneapolis.
I'm
for
reclaiming my
cyber
All that
time.
nice shit.
They ask
Have
a
a
question and
list.
don't want an answer. This
The
is
answer is yes or no.
Time belongs to the gentleman from Pennsylvania.
Hey, hold on, pause it for a second, chat. Hey, she came in real nice, real librarian. Hey, Attorney General, the list, Trump, white supremacists, all this other stuff, Christian ideology. What do you did? You have that list ready? Hey, listen here, like Pam Bondi is turned the fuck up. But we're gonna get to them Epstein files. Make sure you like and subscribe, baby.
Okay. So will you commit to providing this committee with
She ain't doing
any
that.
list of organizations that you have
ain't doing
recommended
that,
be
Chad.
designated as domestic terrorist organizations?
we will comply with the law in all matters.
Will you commit to provide this committee with your list of entities that you recommend be designated as domestic terrorist organizations?
I'm not going to commit to anything to you because you won't let me answer questions.
Okay, well then, we do understand that your current position is that you have a secret list of people or groups that you are accusing of domestic terrorism, but you won't share it with Congress. And I'd remind you that when the US government designates an entity as a foreign terrorist organization, it must report that to Congress and to the entity, because the government can make a mistake and the entity has the opportunity to contest it. So your position seems to be that if you falsely designate an American or an American organization as a terrorist group, there's nothing they can do about it. I think we get it. You don't want to answer the
No,
question.
you don't get anything regarding.
Oh,
public
shit.
safety.
Thank you. It's clear you didn't come to Congress prepared to answer questions that the American people have every
Hey,
right
she
to
clapping
answer.
back,
But
Mitch.
if you were to prepared to answer truthfully, here's what we
Hey,
expect.
Bondi ain't fucking off with y'all today,
The
boy.
administration is keeping lists of Americans who the White
Got a
House
herbal
says are
essence here.
engaged in domestic terrorism. Those lists could include Americans who have
Oh,
not
shit.
committed any acts of terrorism, but simply disagree with this administration, people like Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And your list may include clergy, elected officials, and members of indivisible groups across the country. And those lists likely don't include Proud Boys or Oath Keepers who were actually convicted. Americans have never tolerated political demagogues who use the government to punish people on an enemies list. It brought down McCarthy,
Time of the gentlelady has
it brought down
expired.
Nixon,
Time of
and
the
it will
gentlelady has
bring down
expired.
this administration as well.
And you're right.
yield back.
That's why we're so glad they rescinded the
That's right.
memorandum targeting parents. For goodness sake, as the gentleman from California just pointed out in his 5 minutes, the gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for 5
May I
minutes.
respond very briefly to her statement?
Well, I think we can do that
Okay.
probably on
Next.
one of our members' time.
Okay, thank you. I don't want that to get away. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Behind me, I have 3 documents from the DOJ production that are emblematic of the massive failure of the DOJ to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. To my right
Nancy?
is an email that was sent by the victims' lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to redact, a list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? They released this email in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did. And they're getting phone calls. A lot of these people didn't want to be known. And we know you touched the document because you redacted one name and you redacted the lawyer's name, but you left the survivor's name there. The next document I want to show you,
That's crazy.
that was in the title, the victims' survivors' names, all right? The title of this one is Child Sex Trafficking, Co-Conspirators, fully redacted. And by the way, I'm gonna unredact them here. Les Wexner is in this.
Oh, shit.
Now, your your deputy attorney general
Oh.
said, oh, well, he appears hundreds of times in the files, but he doesn't appear in this file until I forced you to release it, where he's listed as a co-conspirator, not to tax evasion, but to child sex trafficking, not to prostitution,
That's
not to money
crazy.
laundering, child sex trafficking. And then finally, what we have here is the third exhibit that I have is emblematic of the FD 302 release. These are the documents that we need that you're holding on to and over redacting because they have the names of the men who are implicated. How do we know? Because the survivors gave testimony to the FBI, and it's in there. And what happens when you go to the portal at the DOJ to look at what's behind this redaction? Another redaction. So we can't even see them. And then there's some of these files you've pulled down from the website that we will never see because we can't search the redactions. So I have several questions for you.
Here we go.
Who's responsible? Are you able to track who in your organization made this massive failure and released the victims' names? Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document? Do you have that kind of accountability?
I believe Wexner's name was listed more than 4,000 times.
Yeah, I already told you that.
Can I
This is
fin-
where he's listed as a
Can I
co-conspirator.
finish my answer? Come on,
fuck?
let me finish my answer.
Who the
We
fuck you talking
corrected
to
that
like that?
within 40 minutes. He was already, you're acting like everybody's trying to cover up Wexner's name. He was
Reclaiming my
listed
time.
I'm going to answer this question.
Reclaiming my time.
He was,
Mr. Chairman.
This is how this works.
Can I have my time
He
back?
was,
Mr. Chairman.
The gentlelady can give her answer. The time belongs to the gentleman from
All right,
Kentucky.
I'm reclaiming my
Can
time.
I give my answer?
So
Yes.
I'm going to put the language of the bill up on the screen.
Chairman,
because I
may I
have
give my
another
answer
question.
on that?
Here's
It's a political
the question.
joke, and I need to give my answer
Yeah,
on that.
we'll let the Attorney General respond, and then the gentleman can move to his
Chairman,
next question.
it's my time.
Within 40 minutes, you asked me a question.
You can give
Within
me-
40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes
You
of
ha-
me catching you red-handed.
Oh, shit.
There was one redaction.
Where
of
he's
over
listed as a
4,700,
co-conspirator.
Okay.
And we invited
what?
you
Switch
in.
gentlemen.
Nancy turned
This
up,
guy has
bitch.
Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get, you're a failed
He
politician.
Gentlemen,
You need to
I
get
want
on
you to
these
watch the video.
matters.
Mr. Chairman, please restore his time and remind the witness of the rules
himself, there
here.
is
Time?
no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals.
Is that your position as well?
My position is any victim who comes forward, of course, we would love to hear from them. 1-800-CALL-FBI. Did you ask Merrick Garland that the
What
last
the
4
fuck?
years? Did you talk about Epstein?
I am
at
reclaiming
all
my
the
time.
last
I'm
4
glad you're
years?
asking about Merrick Garland.
You don't get
Here
to
we go.
reclaim
Because
time
this
when
is
you don't,
bigger than
when you can't-
Watergate.
when I don't answer a question the
this
way you
goes
want.
over 4 administrations. You don't have to go back to Biden. Let's go back to Obama. Let's go back to George Bush. This cover-up spans decades, and you are responsible for this portion of it.
And that's
now,
where the
I want to
most
know at what
transparent-
point did the FBI and the DOJ decide that Lex Wessner was not a co-conspirator? Because our Epstein Files Transparency Act requires you, please put it back on the screen, please, to release the internal decision about whether to prosecute him or not, and it's not in the files, and it's not in the files for any of these other men.
Time of the gentleman has
Which,
expired.
may she answer?
And he's a hypocrite because he voted against the ban that we were talking about on deep fake AI porn. Only 2 people voted against
What?
it, and you were one of them, hypocrite.
The gentleman's time has expired.
What the fuck?
Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman,
I would,
point of
Mr.
order.
Chairman, could
Oh,
she answer
Jasmine
the
Crockett ain't
question?
getting me
I was
yet. That's
wondering-
the one I'm waiting on,
Gentlelady's
baby. You
allowed-
already know what time it
the
is.
gentleman's allowed to respond the way she wants to respond to any member's question, Republican, Democrat.
All right, I have unanimous consent request.
Gentleman's recognized for a UC.
All right, this is an example. I'm
he
submitting
ain't
these
done.
302 forms that are entirely redacted, even when you go to look at
Without
them.
objection.
I'm submitting a witness statement that implicates Les Wexner.
Without objection.
I'm submitting an article from the New York Times that the DOJ released nude photos and
Without objection.
identifiable pictures of the victims. I'm submitting a letter from A.G. Bondi to Kash Patel, imploring him to quit keeping the files when you found out that they were keeping files from you, because they're still redacting files that you.
Chairman, are we going to
Without
recess for votes?
Yes, we
Hell
are.
I'm
no,
submitting
let's
for
go.
unanimous consent a document of 17 individuals who've resigned because of the Epstein files.
Without objection.
This shit is lit.
Just want to check on how much time we have left in votes, but one thing I've learned here of late that they'll wait on us. How much time do we have?
Jordan trying to reset the room, bitch.
Oh, they just called. Okay. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Maryland.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start by saying I appreciate what you said, Attorney General Bondi, and you said it to me personally, that you take the personal security of every member of Congress seriously and that people can contact you about that. And in these times, that's a very serious matter. So I thank you for that. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 7 of the Constitution is the Domestic Emoluments Clause. And it says that the president is limited to his salary in office and cannot receive any other money from the federal government while he's in office. It cannot be increased by $1. This president is the first president in U.S. history
who has repeatedly sued the federal government for $230 million for the judicial search warrant at Mar-a-Lago, which was perfectly lawful and was never struck down. But now he's suing the IRS for $10 billion.
Crazy.
He's suing the IRS for $10 billion, which I think is around 80% of its annual budget, because his tax returns were leaked. And they were illegally leaked by a private contractor who actually is in prison now, Charles Littlejohn. But he wants $10 billion. Now, well, I want to ask you the question of whether you think it would violate the Domestic Emoluments Clause for you to settle that $10 billion case or any of the other claims that the president has made against the government. He himself has remarked, it's interesting because I'm the one that makes the deal, right? And he says, I kind of have to work it out with myself. Do you think it would violate the Domestic Emoluments Clause for the president to work out a deal from people who are his subordinates under his unitary executive theory to get money in one of these cases?
I'm not going to discuss pending litigation.
Okay, so theoretically you're saying because his privacy rights were violated in that tax case, and they were. I'm with the president on that. I mean, his Mar-a-Lago thing is ridiculous, but there's no doubt that his tax returns, despite the fact that he promised to release them, despite the fact that every other president released the tax returns, he suffered embarrassment when it showed that he hadn't paid taxes for several years, and he had a right for that not to happen. Now, I want to turn back to the Epstein survivors.
Democrat talking point. I heard that,
may
right?
have been a little bit embarrassed.
I heard that, right?
By the release of those tax returns. How much do you think the claims of these survivors are worth? As the good congressman from Kentucky just pointed out, there were lots of survivors who had decided, for reasons of their own, never to release their names. That determination was represented to people in Congress, and we built it into our federal law that their names could not be released, and yet you published their names, their phone numbers, their addresses, personally identifying information. If Donald Trump can get $10 billion, theoretically, from the Department of Justice, how much should these people get for a far worse violation of their privacy rights and a far greater danger established to them in their lives?
Do you even know who Chase Mulligan is? You're so obsessed with, you don't, do you?
I'm going to teach you the rules again. You're the Attorney General of the United States. We have rules here.
You're obsessed with him.
You're the Attorney General of the United States.
You're obsessed with Donald Trump. You have Trump derangement syndrome.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like my time
Mulligan will be
restored. I'd like my time restored.
In your district. In your district, and you don't even know about it, about keeping children safe from online predators.
Time belongs to the gentleman from Maryland. The gentleman can proceed.
Yeah, and I want the whole country to look at this. Because this is the Attorney General of the United States, whose job is law enforcement. We've never had a witness who has misunderstood our rules and been unable to conform his or her conduct to our rules before. We have only 5 minutes, and so we use our time to ask you specific questions.
How long are you giving me to answer?
Excuse me, I'm not yielding to you right now. I'd like that second restored too. So, Ms. Bondi, the way it works is we ask you a question, and you answer it, and if you go off on a wild goose chase, another tangent, you start reading statistics, or you start talking about stuff going on in our district, and by the way, I invite you to my district. Come to my district, but that's not what we're here to do today, okay? So, and you do that, then we're allowed to say we reclaim our time. At that point, you have to be quiet. You have no choice. You have to be quiet. So I hope you understand the rule at this point. Now, here's what I want to ask you. You're in law enforcement. We've seen all kinds of evidence of crimes. And when we go over to the Department of Justice for the 4 computers for every member of Congress, we see more evidence of crimes. Will you create a joint task force of the Department of Justice and governors and state attorney generals and district attorneys across the country to investigate the crimes that have taken place against these victims and more than 1,000 like them? The DOJ is not doing its job. Will you create a task force with state and local law enforcement to make that happen?
But they're still going to oversee? What?
Gentlelady can respond if she wants to.
Thank you, Chairman. He
I get
called
it, but
Chase Mulligan a
would
wild
you
goose
trust- why
chase
would you
and
trust him?
didn't even know who he was. He is a defendant in your own
Chairman,
district who
Mr.
preyed
Chairman.
on girls.
This is
Mr.
crazy.
Chairman.
Well, you know what? If he were part of the Epstein investigation, you wouldn't do anything about it.
Online chat rooms and committed sextortion. Yet he didn't even know in your tiny little district who he was.
Mr. Chairman, she's embarrassing
He was
crazy.
about to be
This is your
fined.
committee, and she
This
is
is
embarrassing.
crazy.
On you.
The time of the gentleman has expired. I would remind the committee that last
Yeah, but
Congress.
Crockett about to let this shit on
Secretary Miles was here numerous
fire.
times, and he wouldn't answer our questions, even when we
Bet
sent
your
him
fire was
to
going-
him
that's
ahead of
how I'm
time
already.
in writing. So that's what we've had to deal with. I think the Attorney General is doing just fine. We have votes shortly. I will go to the gentleman from Virginia, and then we will take a break to head to the floor.
Oh, we're gonna have to take a break,
Thank
y'all.
you, Chairman. Attorney General Bondi, thank you for
This shit
being here.
lit.
And I wanted to thank you for your work at DOJ in restoring the rule of law, encouraging transparency surrounding Jack Smith's partisan investigations into President Trump, declassifying information about the Russia collusion hoax, cracking down on sanctuary jurisdictions, and establishing the National Fraud Enforcement Division. Let me first go to securing the border and immigration enforcement. Our new governor has recently rescinded 287G cooperation between the state and ICE. Can you talk about, have you evaluated the public safety impact, how that would affect safety in Virginia to withdraw that support and what that would do to criminal activity involving illegal immigrants in Virginia?
Yes, it would be detrimental. And as you know, Congressman, one of the top members of MS-13 in the entire country was living in Virginia, in a suburb, among all of us, living not even probably half an hour away from where we are now. And the cooperation previously with the governor, with the members of the state of Virginia, helped catch him and take him off our streets.
Big
An
Frog,
illegal
thank you for tapping in. I don't even know what
MS-13
you're talking about, but appreciate
entire
that.
country was living
Another
in Virginia.
bootlicker.
And it's a
What are y'all
shame
even
that that's
talking
happening
about,
now.
Jack?
And thank you for talking about it, because we're going to keep America safe. And when people feel like they can flee to these cities and states and be safe, they can't, because Donald Trump is going to protect Americans. We're going to protect the citizens there, whether or not the governors, the mayors are going to do it or not. But President Trump is. We're going to keep Americans safe from violent gang members like he's been doing this last year.
We appreciate that. We appreciate your work to make that happen in Virginia and keep Virginia safe. I want to move on to the Fraud Enforcement Division that you've established. My understanding is that this initiative is intended to centralize, coordinate enforcement of fraud laws related to government programs. You've talked about Minnesota, you've talked about California. Would this affect Virginia as well? Because we have fraud in Virginia as well.
Absolutely, and we look forward to working with you.
Would this affect things like long-term care accountability, senior living facilities engaged in Medicaid fraud, including systemic overbilling practices and the misappropriation of taxpayer-funded benefits?
That is exactly what it's set up to help.
So
I
we want
know
the drama,
that
man.
whether it was related to fraud specifically or another subject, that
Everybody
under the
coming
Biden
here with
administration,
nonsense
there
every time they
was
in my chat. I don't get
a
the
sitting
hate.
member of the Virginia General Assembly under investigation. Is that investigation still ongoing?
I don't be doing shit.
Can you speak to that?
I'm
I can't
bootleg and all
discuss
other
it.
shit, but you on my stream. Get your ass up.
I'm going to move
Keep sliding,
on
bitch.
to
Hating.
the
It be
Second
black
Amendment
folks, so we-
rights
it'd be the
of
worst.
law-abiding Americans.
Be the worst of it.
Last year, President Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill into law, which included the Hearing Protection Act, part of it that was sponsored by myself and Congressman Clyde. It reduced the national firearms tax, $200 tax on suppressors and short-barreled firearms, to zero. And while the tax has been eliminated, the NFA's registration and paperwork requirements remain in effect, and
Oh, my bad, Frog.
your DOJ has said that
My
would,
bad. You're right. You're right.
even
You're
though
right.
the tax was reduced to zero.
My bad, Frog.
That the registration requirement is still somehow necessary, even though with regard to
Rocket coming,
the
man. Yeah, that's
Affordable Care Act,
alive.
when that mandate was, when that tax penalty was reduced to zero.
See, I'm gonna just mute the congressman here for the people that are here with chat with me right now. This is your boy, the hip hop lobbyist. I really stuttered through that. Let me try it again. I am your boy, the hip hop lobbyist, professional lobbyist in Florida. And right now we know that Pam Bondi is getting some easy softball questions from the Republicans. And the Democrats are drilling her in, and she is not with the bullshit. But all put together, most members of Congress end up being boring. The conversation ended up being boring. But let's hear what Jim Jordan, the chairman, is saying. Hold on.
Have to pay some secret source $20,000 of taxpayer money. Do you
What?
know the answer to that?
I can't discuss anything on that matter, but that's a
smiling like
good
that.
question, Chairman Jordan.
Well said, it's a good question
I'll pause
because
the
he
next time. I'm
subpoenaed
better,
just about every Republican in this town, got half the Congress's phone numbers if you were a Republican. But he has to pay some secret source a bunch of taxpayer money. We'd like to know, the committee would like to know how many other sources he paid. Was it more than $20,000? Why he had to do those things. We'd like to know when you can, if you could get that information to the committee. I think when you think about the guy who was trying to put the President of the United States in prison, ridiculous as that whole thing was, we'd kind of like to know the answer to that if you could. And with that, we're going to stand in recess. We will go as quickly as we can and vote. We have 2 quick votes on the floor, and we will be back. There is actually some lunch if you all need it. We have for our members, and since you're back here, you can have some. We normally have plenty.
Mr. Chairman.
We'll take a recess.
Before you gavel out, can I ask for unanimous consent to enter to a record the article entitled Inside Trump's DOJ dated October 16, 2020?
Without objection, we stand in recess.
All right, we've seen it in recess. We're going to keep the stream there live, and I appreciate y'all tapping in for that part. If I knew they were going to go on recess, I wouldn't have did my little spiel earlier. Listen, there's been some fireworks in committee today. And we're going to go back and watch some of it because I had some technical difficulties when we started. I had to go take a smoke break, come on back, but we're here now anyway, right? But Pam Bondi is fighting with the gloves off against Democrats. And I do understand it. There are a lot of answers between ICE, between the president, really the Epstein files. All these redacted, unredacted, they have the founder, the CEO of Victoria's Secrets in the Epstein files as a co-conspirator. Some of Trump's homeboys, they say. You know, I really thought about it the other day. And they were probably thinking like, damn, okay, for real, why didn't Biden release these files? Because he had to know that there's some Democrats in there too, and there's some other people that are friendly to both sides of the aisle that will be implicated. And it probably would have been like, damn, we really can't do this. But that's Pam Bondi's defense. Did you ask Merrick Garland? Did you ask Merrick Garland? It's like, this is all bullshit at the end of the day. It's like, really, I get it. It's politics. But these are young women that were raped, sexually assaulted, trafficked by some of the rich and wealthiest men in the world. And I think, if anything, it's coming to justice. And I honestly feel, Thomas Massey said it earlier in the piece where he was basically like, hold on, I got a call coming in. Hold on. What's going on, boss?
Yo, first of all, fuck you.
Y'all heard that? Y'all heard that chat?
Yeah. Fuck you in your chat.
Hey, that's the world famous top dollar AJ Francis in this bitch.
Hey, Francis, fuck your chat, nigga. I should say some shit to get you banned right now.
No, we ain't gonna do that. It's okay.
But the Realist Cup starts on Friday. You in?
Yeah, I'm in.
All right, cool.
All right. Yeah, that's my homie AJ Francis, former NFL player, professional wrestler, all other stuff. Top dollar. If you watch professional wrestling, whatever it may be, top dollar, whatever it may be, TNA, AEW, he's in all of that. But we also have a FIFA Pro Club League that we play in, and we would talk a lot of crap, and you know, it is what it is, all love, right? I really do feel that sidebar. A lot of people, men especially, we really get that sidebar from video games, whether it's Art Raiders, FIFA, Call of Duty, Madden, whatever it may be, right? 2K. But all back to this politics thing, right? Pam Bondi's fighting back, and I get it. Merrick Garland realized I was on a good tangent before I answered that phone call. Damn, it really threw me off. But regardless of it, is that since they're taking a break, I want to do something that I want to get into some, like, how can I say, some black politics, if anything, right? If you know about the brother Jay Morrison, I want to get into that because that's a whole nother piece, but I think that's going to be a side of Pam Bondi. But let's hop in for my man Wes Moore, the only black governor in the country who's currently delivering his State of the State. I'm going to chop it into some of the beginning of where he's at, and then we're going to get back to Pam Bondi right after that. I'll put Bondi on the side, so by the time she goes live, we'll be right back to it. Let's check out my man Wes Moore.
The same goes for Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller.
delivering his state of the state right now with Pam Bondi testifying. Politics don't stop,
The
man.
same goes for Comptroller Brooke Learman.
Politics don't stop. Make sure y'all check out my Substack too, Capital Insights. I'll drop a link in the chat.
The same goes for Treasurer Derek Davis.
We're breaking down a lot of not only the post streams, the live streams, but also some of my insights as well politically and
The
some other
same
things.
goes for Attorney General Anthony Brown. The same goes for your former colleague, Senator, and now our Secretary of State, Susan Lee.
Okay, bro, I'm about to
The
skip.
same goes
Hey,
for
hey,
all
hey.
the members.
All right.
Fight for the worker.
I gotta skip forward, y'all. Like, all the congratulations, we gotta get back to Pam Bondi. Doing 2 quick votes, so we gotta get to him and back to Bondi. Respect to the government.
Deserves a raise and a fair wage for their labor. We'd fight for the car mechanic in St. Mary's. We would fight for the restaurant owner in Lonaconning. That we'd fight for the teacher in Baltimore. And we'd fight for the farmer in the Eastern Shore.
I don't even know what he's saying.
Now, I cannot and I will not stand here and tell you that I've gotten it all right. I'm more self-aware than the President of the United States. I would not give myself an A++++. Many of us met on my first day when I was the governor. It's taken time to build relationships. It's taken time to learn Annapolis. I am an outsider at heart, and I don't see that changing. I have not always made life easy for the House or for the Senate.
Don't do
And
it.
I know that there are times when you have not made life easy on each other. And you know what? That's okay. Because that's democracy. It's messy, it's combative, it's complicated, and it's worth fighting for. That is not a flaw. That is a feature.
What?
And it's what we're doing right now. Now, a few months ago, I reestablished the Governor's Redistricting Advisory Commission.
Here you go.
Because at a time when other states were having a discussion about mid-decade redistricting, I said that Maryland needs to be a part of that conversation.
Okay.
And after months of work, the commission presented its recommendation, and the House of Delegates debated it. They made adjustments, and then they passed the map. Now, I know there is disagreement right now between the House and members of the Senate. So my ask is simple. Do not let the democratic process die in the free state. Debate it, discuss it, make adjustments if necessary, and put it to a vote. Because that's how we settle our differences in Maryland. We battle ideas right in this building. Oftentimes passionately, and then we go across the street, we share a drink at Harry Brown's, and we get back to work. Unlike Washington, we actually have to balance budgets. We have to make sure that our people are safe.
You know what's crazy? Let me pause that real quick. You know what's crazy about all of that? Democrat and Republican governors say that in every state. And they kick the can to Washington and say, you know what, they pass budgets and they don't ever have a thing to it. But sometimes these states, when they need to fill in those budgets, they're going to the same federal government that doesn't balance their budget to fill in their state budget. I know a state like Maryland was a couple $2 billion in debt, like California and a couple others, right? There are a lot of Democratic states, Democratic-led states, that were in debt. Couple $1 billion. And it's really unfortunate because they all have this narrative. They kind of get the base going, well, we got to balance our budget, but It's bullshit. It's bullshit.
We need to make sure we're looking after our communities.
It's really
Here
bullshit.
we have big goals like ending child poverty in the state of Maryland. And here we do things that we think are important, like keeping our government open. Now, I know there's been some discussion about a very principled disagreement that I have with the Senate President on redistricting. We diverge on this particular issue. But we both care about the future of our state.
Nah,
We
bro.
both care about the future of our people.
Nah, bro, that's not what that is.
And we are going
Here's
to
the political move. I'm gonna pause the governor here. I respect the Westmore. This is the move. The move is for me to look good as the presidential candidate in 2028. I have to redistrict my state just like Gavin Newsom did in California, because Gavin Newsom has a narrative that he fought against Trump and redistrict California to fight against the mid-redistricting, mid-decade redistricting. Cool, right? So now Governor Moore trying to do the same thing, but it's not Republicans fighting him in Maryland. It's Democrats. So imagine that shit. Not every Democrat say, I think Virginia's having an issue. They're like 10-1, right? They're going to think about redrawing theirs. Florida's about to come up next in April. It's going to be a wild time. Like, by the time November gets here, y'all just be here in election night.
To work together on the issues that we care about most because our people are counting on us.
I'm going to stop interrupting the governor before we get back to Pam Bondi for real.
Marylanders are seeing firsthand how this White House agenda is making their lives worse. Because just in the past year, the federal government has fired around 25,000 Marylanders
Andrew, I believe
who have
in
federal
that, bro.
jobs in our state alone. Our neighbors, our friends, our family. It's the biggest federal job cut of any state in the country, where the president's domestic policy agenda could kick up to 180,000 Marylanders off of health care. More than
Big Frog at Harris.
680,000 Marylanders could see their food assistance taken away.
Big Frog, it has to an extent. Let me pause the governor again 1 second. It has to an extent, but in some areas, you have to realize that Republicans hold a lot more governorships or gubernatorial seats than Democrats do. Because there are only so many blue states that can redistrict, right? And I think a part of it is just from running campaigns. You can redraw the lines, but then you have new voters who haven't seen a lot of these people for the first time, right? So you end up in a situation where you redraw the lines, and maybe there's 100,000 more people, because the districts have to be like 760,000, right? So maybe you're getting 200,000 more people who've never seen or voted for this candidate who's your favorite, right? And yes, Democrats have been winning, but it also opens up the opportunity to say, well, I don't know this guy either, right? And then you have to go through this whole thing, and there's enough money out there to help educate people, but not enough time for people to actually give a fuck and care. So a part of that really plays into it. But my thing is, it's like, we're redrawing these districts, and now you have to get a chance to where these elected officials are really going to have to work. They got to get out the narrative and learn these new people, learn these new areas. And from that, it's going to really change the landscape of things to where I feel that it'll balance things out in Congress. But then again, I think it's too much power, because let's say they take the House, they still can't balance shit in the Senate. We're still in gridlock, right? We're still in gridlock with the president. So I agree with it, don't agree with it. It's kind of the things to say, by November, we really have to see how it's going to play out to me. But I do feel that there are going to be some voters in here that are really going to be like, damn, I didn't want this shit. Like, I get it. We got to fight against Trump. We got to fight for democracy on the Republican liberal side. They're like, I didn't really want it to play out like this because I don't know these candidates. My 2 cents at least.
Seniors. That includes veterans.
They're still
That
on break in
includes
the
our
House.
children. Washington is using this moment to attack and to limit and to retreat. So in Maryland, we will use this moment to protect, deliver, and lead.
Oh. It's a soundboard, baby, just in case y'all wondering.
We will protect our people from the worst of Washington's cruelty. We will deliver the kind of results that people can actually feel in their homes and feel in their communities. And we will lead our state and our people unapologetically in a way that inspires them to help move Maryland forward. Protect, deliver, and lead. That's the assignment. And that's what I want to talk about today. And we already know how to do it. I know that because you can just look at the last 3 years. When we took office, Maryland's economy was stagnant. So we focused on making Maryland the best place in the world to change the world. We cut the red tape. We launched programs to get liquidity in the hands of entrepreneurs. We invested in our public schools, invested in our universities, invested in our community colleges, and we built pathways to good careers, like our first in the nation service year option here in the state of Maryland.
I don't even know about that. Sounds good, though. What's the service here, man?
We partnered with unions and trades and employers to graduate over 5,000 apprentices and are going to be graduating 4,000 high schoolers with registered apprenticeships each year by the end of my second term.
That's what I'm talking about, man.
Since we took office, our policies have helped to create nearly 100,000 new jobs, and Maryland has seen over 35,000 new businesses open in our state. Since we took office, our state suffered from a crisis in violence. Even more dangerous, we suffered of a crisis of apathy to the violence. The pain was no longer piercing. It was chronic. Baltimore was averaging almost a murder a day. Maryland families from the western mountains to the eastern shore did not feel safe in their communities. So we worked with our leaders, with fantastic city leaders like Mayor Scott in Baltimore.
Yeah. Mayor Scott holding it down and be more, man.
We work with state leaders like Chair Smith and Chair Bartlett.
Bullshit, I seen the wire. You right. You know what, Nick? You know what I think it is?
We work with members of our federal delegation.
I'll tell you in a
We
second.
bridge
I
the
told
gaps
myself to stop
between
interrupting you.
police and prosecutors. We build strong bonds between community leaders and elected officials. We launched the Enough Initiative so we can work hand in hand with community schools and surge funding to neighborhoods most affected by intergenerational poverty, because here is the fact: you cannot address violent crime if you aren't addressing the failed conditions in the communities where the violence is living at. And the results? Homicides are down nearly 50% statewide, and we are delivering historic drops in crime in every single corner of the state. And in fact, the last time the homicide rate was this low in Baltimore, I was not born yet.
You know what's crazy? Pause that real quick, right? Because that's what Trump's kind of saying too. Like, you kind of realize that? Trump saying that crime's down to 125-year low. Now, the Maryland governor's now saying it's the lowest he's ever been since before his time in life, which is kind of crazy because both sides are taking credit for whatever Trump did to fund his National Guards to help lower crime. Because I'm quite sure that the point in D.C. helped lower some of that shit in other areas of Maryland. I'm not saying the whole state, but some areas. But there are also some policies he maybe put out that did help. However, they both saying the same thing. This is kind of what Pam Bondi was saying about New York, right? Like 60% of people who voted for Trump the last cycle when he beat Kamala voted for Pam Bondi to be governor. I'm sorry, mayor of New York, right? So it's a part of saying, okay, I think some people actually sitting back realizing like, damn, these motherfuckers saying the same thing. And they're clapping for the same shit. But when it's presented by somebody you don't like, the party you don't really want to support, then that's really the problem. And that's what I hate about politics. Hate about the narrative. When people just, are y'all really thinking this shit through? That's what I want to say sometimes.
$40. When we took office, the Charlotte Hall Veterans Home was in a state of complete disrepair and moral decay.
Pam Bondi not back here, yo.
The staff was abusing veterans. The facility earned a 1-star rating from the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services. So we rallied veterans and lawmakers and the Board of Public Works and our Department of Veterans and Military Families to ensure that we were working together to turn Charlotte Hall around. And I'm very proud to announce that Charlotte Hall has gone from a 1-star rated facility to a 4-star rated facility.
Okay.
And we're not done, because we can and we will get that to a 5-star rated facility. Our veterans need it and deserve it, and we are going to produce it for them. And today we're joined by 2 administrators at Charlotte Hall who are going to help us get it there. They've been on the front lines of making sure that when we say thank you for your service, it should actually mean something. Could Emily and Doreen please stand up so we can give you a round of applause for your work? So look, I know a lot of people like to talk about how powerful the federal government is. But I need you to remember how powerful we are. State leaders, citizens, people who love our communities, and people who just simply want to make them better.
Yeah.
Because when we work together, we can actually deliver change. We've reformed the procurement process, cut wait times to receive a state contract from months to weeks, and advanced over $4.3 billion in procurement awards to certified minority-owned and disadvantaged businesses. We've expanded child care access by 70% to support over 41,000 children. We've cut overdose deaths every single year we've been in office, and we brought them down to a 10-year low.
Amazing. This speech is not exciting, but you're the only black governor in America, so I'm gonna watch.
Roadway fatalities by 18%. It's the first time annual roadway fatalities have fallen below 500 in a decade. And I want to give a special shout out to our amazing Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller for her work to make Maryland's roads safer. So we've delivered enormous progress together. But there's still work to do. First, we need to protect our people from the damage that is being caused by this federal administration. This year, Maryland is filling the $40 million gap in SNAP funding created by Donald Trump's domestic policy agenda. It's going to help ensure that children and seniors and people with disabilities who rely on nutritional assistance do not go hungry. We have proposed $14 billion for the state's Medicaid program. It provides health care for over 1.4 million Marylanders.
Okay.
And we've made these investments without compromising fiscal discipline. For the fourth year in a row, we are going to prove that we can do more with less. So once again, I've introduced a balanced budget with a general fund that is smaller than the previous year. And in a moment when prices are going up on everything, our proposed budget does not raise taxes or fees on the people of this state.
They need that.
And as we work to finalize this budget in Annapolis, we're going to continue to be out with the people, the ones who got us here in the first place, the people in your communities. Where last month, I stood with doctors and nurses at the University of Maryland Capital Regional Medical Center in Prince George's County. Washington, they told us, is making their jobs harder because the federal government went from data-driven research to choose-your-own-adventure. So this year, I've introduced legislation to decouple the state's vaccine authority from the federal government because our vaccine policy will be led by science and not by internet conspiracy theories.
That's Carter B. Rebecca. Wait, get better Pam Bondi still,
This is not about an ideology. It's about protecting our people. Giving the same support to our people that we want to give to our own family members. We will protect them no matter where they call home and no matter how they voted in the last election. And it's a philosophy that I wish the Trump-Vance administration understood. Because when towns in Allegheny and Garrett counties were hit by historic flooding, many in this chamber were some of the first boots on the ground. We stood with Senator McKay. We stood with Delegate Heinbaugh. And together we asked the federal government to help us recover. And they said no.
Crazy.
I appealed the decision directly to the President of the United States. And I let him know the area that he was neglecting was one that mainly voted for him. And again,
no.
His answer was no.
So you blame it on the government.
So Maryland stepped up. And so this year, I have proposed $12 million to support flood recovery efforts in Allegheny County, and that includes $1 million to rebuild the Western Port Library.
They're looking like, excuse my seat, bro. My bad.
When our people are in trouble, we're going to help them. And their party affiliation does not matter. If they are Marylanders, they're good. I went to Western Maryland immediately after the storm. And the person who was by my side every single step of the way was Mayor Judy Hamilton. Mayor Judy is the mayor of Westernport. Mayor Judy Mayor Judy is a Republican. I am not. Breaking news. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that we're Marylanders. Judy's in the gallery today. And Judy, it was an honor to watch you lead. And I want to say to you and all the people of Westernport and all the people of Western Maryland, we have your back today, we have your back tomorrow, and we will have your back always. God bless you and thank you.
That's what you need to see, that bipartisanship.
So we're also very clear it will not be enough just to simply spend all of our time pushing back on Washington.
About time.
We've got to push forward. We know the biggest concern.
About time they realized that, dog. Pam Bondi, they ain't come back from break yet? Nope.
Since this time last year, energy prices are now up 13%. The price of beef is up 19%. The price of fertilizer is up 15%. And I just want to be clear, that's not in Maryland. That's nationwide. Those are the numbers across the country. Now, we can't control federal tariff policy, but we will work together to contain prices where we can, to grow our economy because we must, and build new pathways to work and wages and wealth. So as prices go up, we know that this should not be a generational catastrophe for our people.
That's right.
Last year, we worked together to provide $200 million in direct energy rebates to help Marylanders who were struggling. And this year, I've introduced legislation to build on that foundation with an additional $100 million in energy rebates. That is $100 million that's going directly back into the pockets of hardworking Marylanders who need it now.
I think Westmore used to be a smoker. His lips darker than mine, but he like light skin. He almost my son complexion. Probably a little like darker than him. But Westmore used to smoke real heavy back in his day. You could tell like right in there, like he used to smoke backwoods. Then he stopped. But he probably got serious run for office.
But we still have more work to do.
Yeah.
And to all Marylanders who are concerned about
he a real one, the only black governor in America.
Energy prices, I'm here to say with a loud and a collective voice, we hear you.
$40.
Help is on the way. That this year, let's work together to build a thriving energy market that gets more energy to the grid, that adds more jobs to the economy,
What?
and puts more money back in the pockets of working families. Let's make sure we're doing it right here in Maryland, too, so we don't need to rely on other states to keep our lights on. It's time to double down on solar and wind and energy storage because that's where the jobs are, and that's where many of the shovel-ready projects are as well. The Maryland Energy Administration's Community Solar Program is already helping to add 78 megawatts of solar to the grid. It's going to cut utility bills for at least 10,500 low and moderate income Marylanders. So now, we just got to scale it up. We also need to continue building a diverse energy portfolio that takes an all-of-the-above approach, and that includes assets like natural gas and nuclear power because we need more energy and we need it now.
Yeah, we don't have enough, y'all. We won't have enough of the AI run.
But this cannot fall on our shoulders alone. Let's ensure that energy and utility companies are just as worried about Maryland families as they are about their shareholders. And last month, I led a coalition of Democratic and Republican governors to the White House to sign a statement of principles calling for energy reform. We are calling on the grid operator, PJM, to cap the price of energy for the next 2 years.
I ain't gonna hold y'all, Chet. Like, I support the government, but I ain't.
We are also calling on them to incentivize new power generation and ensure that data centers will cover the price tag when they strain the grid.
I'm sorry. I fought with Westmore, but this shit boring. I gotta switch this up. Bro.
And today, I am announcing
Here we go.
that in order to receive my support, new data center projects must hire local workers, they must engage local governments and communities, and they must cover the cost of their own power needs.
We really here till McGirl get on stage, man.
We are not going to choose between affordability and innovation. We can and we will lead in both. Because the world is changing fast. And we need to change with it. A few years ago, AI could barely put together a coherent sentence. And today, just to prove a point, I wrote this entire speech in ChatGPT.
That's a good one, no bullshit.
I'm just playing, I ain't do that.
Yeah, that was a good one.
But we are still figuring out both the power and the peril of artificial intelligence. It can feel scary. And that's why we need a broad-based strategy. Not just for government, but for all of society. So first, we need to make sure that our workers are not being left behind by AI.
Yeah, that's real.
Maryland's labor movement understands this. They understand that we can't stop technology. They just want to make sure that our workers are being supported and not supplanted.
All right, now I love Governor Westmore. Don't get it twisted. I like Governor Westmore. I think he's like doing a lot, parading around and maybe getting in posture to run for president. But my man's public speaking gonna have to step up. I think that the issue with black politicians, like let me just put it out here. Right? I like West. I like a lot of black elected officials. But the issue is this, right? In the black community across the board, we have an issue to where you're either gonna talk like Martin Luther King or you're gonna talk like Barack Obama, right? There are other black orators out here that you can speak like, and I think the issue ends up being when you try to emulate Obama-esque elected official wise, right? And you don't have that pizzazz and spunk and natural like ability, just like, damn, that's fun. Like, you know, it's like textbook border force. That's what makes people say, yeah, you trying to be like Obama, bro. Like, yeah, be you. And I think that's a part of it. Like, every elected official, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, and different, right? They're not necessarily all the firebrand that a Jasmine Crockett could be or off the cuff as Barack Obama would be, right? But at least be original in you. And I think a part of it is, my man's a good governor from what outside looking in. However, this right here, bro, you need some more energy in these speeches because this ain't it. He's about to put the whole damn chat to sleep, about to put me to sleep. But I'm gonna go over to RFK. They were speaking about 25 minutes, but they just had Mike Tyson on stage speaking with RFK about making sure that we eat real food, which has been a major thing, not only in my life, but also across the board. I don't work out. I just, I still eat, but I don't work out. I eat a lot of fruits, vegetables, meaty shit, but I don't actually get my fat ass up and hit the gym as much as I need to, right? And my physique pays the toll. However, for that point, outside of me saying my bullshit, let's check out what Mike Tyson had to say with RFK Jr. at the eatrealfood.gov piece.
Came by and killed one of his birds, and that was his first KO. And
see, they got the tattoos on the face like Mike
when
and
he
all.
talked, this is the most fierce fighter in the ring in history. When he talks about pigeons, you can see his heart, his compassion, his gentleness. And you see in this ad, this extraordinary ad, and Peter Arnell and Brett Ratner told me that when they went to shoot this ad, they had 8 hours. They spent the first 7 trying to get Mike to read a script. And they weren't capturing the power that they knew was in him. So the last hour, they just let him talk. And out of that, we got this extraordinary, powerful ad. I think it's the most important and consequential ad in the history of the Super Bowl. And I think it's really going to change our country. So, Mike, why don't you come up and...
Yo, Mike Tyson. What RFK Jr., man? Mike Slim, look at Mike Slim, Mike, boy. My wife asked me, she saw the ad, the Super Bowl ad. She was like, people really be like, man, people respect Mike Tyson.
Wow, okay.
Not that, no disrespect, but you know how some people just don't be doing like, he's a boxer.
Secretary Kennedy, Peter Arnell, Brett Ratner, and everybody that helped me and had anything to do with allowing me to be in part of the commercial for the Super Bowl. And once they were telling me the situation, what it was about obesity, I was telling them my experience that I had a sister that died at 25 from obesity. And where I come from is Brownsville, Brooklyn, is the most violent, poverty-stricken neighborhood in the city of New York. And ultra processed food was just the norm. Everything was processed food. We didn't have much money, but we had food stamps, and food stamps can buy you the candy, the sugar, and all that soda, 7-Up, and all that rotten stuff. And that's just all we knew. And the food that we ate was pretty much processed. It was gizzards, guts, and stools and stuff of weird animals. And I just wanted to be a part of this because that was such a part of my life. I grew up upstate New York with a master fight trainer, and so he gave me a lifestyle. Yes. So obesity is totally out of my life. And sometimes I fool around, I gain 40, 20 pounds, I'm real lazy, but I have a lifestyle, lose like this. And that's why I'm just such a fan of this. This is the biggest fight of my life. I want to be a hero in this particular field because it affects my life. Every time I see someone who may be obese, I have an affinity for them. I want to be close to them. I want to talk to them. I want to let them know that I'm their friend without saying, hey, you remind me of my sister. And I'm just very grateful to be here and fight this fight. It's going to be a fight that I look forward to. Thank you very much, everyone, for allowing me.
Man, you gotta love Mike Tyson, man. And I know that people will look at, they always spin on this, right? Especially when celebrities get involved and things like this. But you have Mike Tyson here, RFK Jr. Some people say, you know what, he's been friends with Trump all the time. But one thing I will say, outside of Nicki Minaj, because I just didn't support that bullshit, it's just a fact of you'll see a lot of people black people who grew up impoverished, who made it, who kind of changed their mindset throughout life, And if you ever read any of Mike Tyson's books, I'm a big fan of Mike Tyson. It's just the human side of him ends up coming out, right? And he's funny. You see his podcast, way before the podcast, his book is amazing. But it ends up getting to a point of saying like, damn, there are some people who may be supporting the administration, maybe supporting Trump, not because of who he is, but because of like, you know what, damn, there's something in this that I actually support, right? Because we'll be the main people, black people, that complain about the processed food in our communities. I always say this thing, that this is, go back to my TED Talk. Why don't they ever pass a tax credit for healthier food options to come into food deserts or urban communities, right? You always have a 24-hour McDonald's, right? They just started making Walmart, it's not 24 hours, it's 12 hours a day, right? Or some shit, right? 16, 18 hours a day. But it used to be Walmart and McDonald's were the only things really open, right? And at the end of the day, most people weren't going to Walmart to go buy something to cook. They were going to McDonald's. And it's just a fact of like, damn, we always complain about processed foods. We always complain that all this nasty sugary shit is the only option. It's the cheapest things. It costs more to eat healthy. But now all of a sudden it's a fact of saying, okay, cool. We have someone that the culture can respect in Mike Tyson saying like, damn, you know what? Fuck how y'all feel about Trump. This is actually something that's impacting us. I've lost a sister to this. I've lost someone I care about to it. And I do think that that's something that kind of changes people's perspective to be like, you know what, damn, yes, fuck Trump, but I support this. I think that's a part of it. It's like, it's not all or none, right? you could disagree with Trump on 8 out of 10 things, but there are 2 things that can, like, you know what, damn, I do kind of agree with him on some of this shit. Like, not everything, but these 2 things I'll take, but then everybody else wants to make everything racism, right? And you gotta love and hate that too. But we're still waiting on Pam Bondi to come back. I'm gonna hop into this other story out of Chicago. Headline looked kind of interesting. Let's check this out while we wait on Pam Bondi to come back. They took a recess in Congress to vote on the Trump Back Save Act and some other stuff. So we'll get to it. I may go back to some parts of Pam Bondi to really gear it all up, because there were some moments earlier that I kind of missed while I was waiting, getting to some technical difficulties. But I appreciate y'all tapping in, spending y'all lunch with your boys. 1:30 or 1:21, excuse me. About to be 1:30. Hope y'all having a great afternoon, man.
We're digging into a once trusted Cook County judge. She was supposed to be helping an elderly man manage his money. Instead, she was taking large amounts for herself. That man was a Tuskegee Airman who fought for his country while battling segregation. Then, this.
Well, I've known Lawton since I was a baby. He's my grandfather's best friend. He's a Tuskegee Airman, World War II veteran, just an all-around wonderful person.
That's Lawton Wilkerson, making history as one of America's first black military pilots. Tuskegee Airmen took frontline risks and then took heat as boundary breakers that many didn't like.
Dealing with segregation, dealing with all of that while still also flying. It is amazing.
After the military, he flew for fun, became a Chicago-based radio technician. He married, never had kids, and saved for his golden years.
It was clear Lawton should have had hundreds of thousands of dollars, certainly enough to take care of him for the rest of his life, because he'd worked.
I ain't gonna hold you, Chad. That's not what I thought this was. I thought it was like some news. I didn't know it was gonna be a damn documentary, to be real. And AG Bondi's back, so let's get back to it.
With police with the intent to commit another felony. This is who you choose as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States of America to hire at the Department of Justice. Someone on video yelling, "Kill him," at police officers, right?
I believe he was pardoned by President Trump.
Oh, he was pardoned. You're right. You're right. Pardoned by President Trump for his offense. Pardoned for yelling, "Kill him," at police officers. And yet you expect hardworking police officers across the country to believe that you take law enforcement seriously. You could imagine the reaction of so many folks across the country hearing the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States refuse to even condemn what that individual whom you've now hired did. But in any event, let's talk a little bit about some of the other divisions within the Department of Justice and what's happened over the last year. You're familiar with the Public Integrity section of the DOJ's criminal division. I think it's referred to as PIN. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know which presidential administration under which the PIN was first created?
I can tell you what administration that the weaponization was ended under.
I'll reclaim my time. This wasn't a trick question.
You don't get to
Madam Attorney
reclaim
General.
your time.
Madam Attorney General.
Because I don't like it.
Mr. Chairman, will you explain to the witness that he does reclaim his time?
Because I don't answer a question to your satisfaction.
Mr. Chairman. Madam Attorney General, the
Man,
time
Bondi, I don't
belongs
wanna
to the
say,
gentleman
but, hey.
from Colorado.
The president under which PIN was created was Gerald Ford. It was created after Watergate. I'm not asking a question, Madam Attorney General. The administration under which it was created was Gerald Ford. When you first started as the Attorney General of the United States, there were 35 people working in that office. There are now 2 people working in that office because you have gutted it. How many people work for the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team in the criminal division today?
Can I answer the question about PIN?
I've asked you a question. How many
You've
people
asked
work?
me a question, but you don't
How
want
many
the answer.
people work
I'm not
for the
gonna answer your
National
questions the way you
Cryptocurrency
want.
Enforcement Team?
Who the fuck?
You won't answer how many
I'll
people?
answer PIN.
You.
PIN will not be
you know what?
weaponized.
You know what?
What's funny about this?
I'll say to the chairman.
What's funny about this?
You know what the answer is? And I think I
What's
understand why
funny
the
about
Attorney General
this?
does not want to answer the question.
City.
Because you eliminated the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team last year. So I understand why you don't want to tell the American people who works there.
Yeah, I
no one
understand
works
why
there
you don't want to
anymore,
talk about
Madam
Mohammed
Attorney
Solomon
General.
in
So,
your district.
In any event,
who
I would
murdered people.
Mr. Chairman, will you stop the clock so his time is not wasted by
I've
the
been
witness?
very generous with allowing extra time when we have these little disputes.
I understand.
You got the time,
I
Mr. Goose?
I might as
Jim
well
Jordan
ask
playing it right. Let's go.
the chairman these questions.
I'd be happy
because
to
what,
answer
what
some
is
of your
fu-
questions.
what's profound, the questions I've
Profound?
asked,
The crime in
questions
your
I've
district.
asked, Mr. Chairman, are not trick questions. They're not gotcha questions. They're actually basic questions about how the Department of Justice functions and the unwillingness of this Attorney General to answer them in good faith. When a member of Congress asks how many people work at the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement
Nick, I
Team,
just saw your comment.
and the Attorney General
Mike
refuses
will
to
knock out
answer
that
it,
fruit troll. Shut up.
it is not a coincidence. It's because she eliminated the team. Why?
What's wrong with y'all?
Because her
Nick,
boss,
hilarious.
the President of the United States, is making money hand over fist, $1.4 billion over the course of the last year through cryptocurrency holdings. I think what is happening with the Department of Justice is a disgrace, Mr. Chairman, and I would urge you to gain control of this hearing. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Yeah. I would ask the gentleman, does he agree with the standing up of the Deputy Attorney General for dealing with fraud? That's something that's happened in this administration, first time. You talked about Penn. That happened with this Justice Department.
We're talking about this committee.
Mr. Chairman, had you answered the question, had the Attorney General answered the question in that way, perhaps this hearing would have some modicum of resembling something that has typically been fairly conventional, an oversight hearing of the Department of Justice.
The gentleman's
That is
time
not
has expired. The gentlelady from Wyoming is recognized for 5 minutes.
Attorney General Bondi, I want to express my gratitude to the President, you and your team for your continued efforts against extreme anti-energy policies taken by states and cities that serve only to increase costs on the American people.
There she go.
This is an issue of
Got
great
no earrings
concern
for
for
him.
Congress
Little
as
matching
well
little pillow
as
there.
the consumers. At the behest of networks of non-governmental organizations and
that on.
anti-growth
She got that
activists,
thing on.
Democratic-controlled states and cities are enacting laws and pursuing coordinated lawsuits that would impose retroactive liability on energy producers
ring she
for
needed.
past global emissions based on speculative future climate change harms. The proponents of these plans call them climate superfund laws, but in reality, that is simply window dressing for taxes and fees imposed on consumers and businesses that don't even have a presence in these states or communities. But if you look at the billions of dollars they hope to gain from these efforts, the real goal here is to increase their already mismanaged state budgets by imposing fees on consumers and businesses in energy-producing states such as the state of Wyoming. I would describe
up,
this
Maggie?
as
What's
the
up,
tobacco
Yoli?
litigation on steroids. Vermont has enacted such a law, and another has recently gone into effect in New York. Similar laws are under consideration in a number of other states. Clearly, this problem is spreading. Would you agree that Congress has not authorized states to impose retroactive liability against energy producers and lawful carbon emissions?
Yes.
And would you also agree that protecting consumers is a core part of the DOJ's mission?
Absolutely.
Would you further agree that combating state policies that seek to hide and shift the true cost of programs like these onto consumers fits within your mission?
Yes.
So, Attorney General Bondi, fossil fuels are the foundation of the U.S. economy, and the recent winter storms underscored that gas, coal, and oil remain essential to grid reliability and heating our homes. Can you confirm that the DOJ is fully committed to using all available legal tools to stop these state and local level attacks on domestic energy production?
Congresswoman, we are committed to that, and so is the entire administration. We talk about that a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The President's April 2025 executive order directed the DOJ to identify and act against state laws that burden U.S. energy production. What concrete actions has the DOJ and the administration more broadly taken to carry out this directive?
Well, we filed 4 lawsuits. We're filing multiple lawsuits. Many things are pending within this office to carry that out.
Okay. States continue to invent new causes of action to pursue state climate lawfare, as is evidenced by Michigan's recent novel claim related to antitrust violations. The city of Boulder, Colorado, has also filed such a lawsuit, despite refusing my challenge that they actually forego the use of fossil fuels if they disagree with them so much. Does the Department of Justice agree that these novel approaches require a federal response, and will the department pursue such an approach?
Yes, Congresswoman, and we'd be happy to talk to you more about that.
Wonderful,
Yes.
thank you. Multiple climate lawsuits Multiple climate lawsuits are now advancing toward trial,
Yeah,
even in
sounds that
states
phone, of course, you got
that
it on
rely on
blast.
those energy forms to provide heat and electricity for their citizens. In fact, in any community, that they all rely upon fossil fuels in some fashion. Is the department actively considering intervention to protect federal supremacy over interstate emissions and energy policy?
Yes, would be happy to discuss that with you.
Thank you. And clearly, this is an area in which Congress has a role to play. To that end, I'm working with my colleagues in both the House and Senate to craft legislation tackling both these state laws and the lawsuits that could destroy energy affordability for consumers. To that end, are there any authorities or tools that DOJ and the administration don't currently have at their disposal that would be helpful in that effort that Congress could adopt?
Well, we work with multiple agencies throughout the administration, but I'd be happy to talk to you about that more.
Wonderful, thank you. I appreciate your effort in this regard.
And may I have 20 seconds of your time before to address something?
Yes.
Thank you. Your colleague, Senator Neguse, didn't want to talk about crypto because he said I was a disgrace talking about crypto because he didn't want to talk about the tremendous crime in his jurisdiction. He voted no on preventing violence.
Let's make Beth. Hold on, my bad, y'all. My bad. Oh, there we go. Wait. I didn't realize the audio cut out. Let me fix this real quick. My bad, y'all. Tends to happen every blue moon. That should fix it. Let's get back to it. My
which
bad on
was
that.
denied.
I ain't checked the audio.
As a result of the efforts of those attorneys under your watch, the court actually upheld the life
Appreciate y'all's
sentence
patience too.
for a man who used prejudice as his defense for murdering my son and scarring his friends for life. Attorneys from your office, under your management, worked hard to remove a dangerous man from the community who terrorized innocent people like my son and his friends. The compassion and respect that my family received throughout that ordeal were critical in helping us keep faith in the rule of law and justice. Based on my experiences, I have seen how strong victim services, sustained investigations, and well-supported prosecutors can make a meaningful difference in the lives of families who are grieving and suffering. Ms. Bondi, just yes or no, would you agree that government officials should be respectful and supportive of victims' families as they mourn?
First, Congresswoman, thank you for talking about that, and I'm so very sorry for what happened to your family.
Thank you.
And yes, I agree with that with all victims, including the ones sitting behind us today. I absolutely do. And
Okay.
also, thank you for voting yes on the Lake and Riley Act.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so your answer is why the recent
If you missed it again, I don't know if I was muted. Lucy McBath has history with Attorney General Pam Bondi because when Pam Bondi was Attorney General of Florida, Jordan Davis, Lucy McBath's son, when she was still living in Jacksonville, Florida, was killed by a gentleman at a gas station for playing his music too loud. Now, that did make national news. It was a Netflix documentary, these other things. So there is at least some, not camaraderie, but at least some relationship here between that and Lucy McBath did end up moving to Georgia, ran for office, is a congressional member from there, but it's a fact of her connection there overall. So just kind of putting some clarity, some connection there overall, because I do remember being in committee way before Ray-Bans and before everybody was really capturing content like that, to where they had a bill where they were trying to repeal the Stand Your Ground law. Now, this is after Trayvon Martin and Jordan Davis happened, right? And the issue was Lucy McBath and her husband came to testify about the bill because the issue was the Castle Doctrine on why they looked to remove the Stand Your Ground law. They really said, it couldn't be done the way the bill was drawn out. But out of all the bills that were out there, they didn't say, hey, let's make changes. They went for the one that would repeal. Matt Gaetz led that committee. and here's where we are. But all put together, it gets to a point of saying, at least in some aspects, there are some elected officials in different parties who have some familiarity around some issues. And I know that Lucy McBath's story is a lot different from the situation we're talking about with Epstein and ICE and other things that are happening, but there is some at least clear the air here so you can kind of see what the connection is, just in case you were worried. But more than anything, for 140 y'all that stayed through while we had some audio issues, I appreciate y'all. I thank every single one else who tapped in for the stream today, whether you're watching from here in Florida or wherever. But if you will let me know where you're watching the stream from today and what the gas price is in your city. That is something we typically ask when President Trump's on and he said something around, hey, gas is $1.99 across the country. Well, where are you in the country? How much is the price of gas? I'll let you know in the chat what mine is. But I appreciate y'all tapping in again. Let's get back to it, man.
Treatment of families in Minnesota raises really serious concerns for me, because shortly after Mr. Alex Preddy was murdered, administration officials referred to him as an assassin and called Mr. Preddy the definition of domestic terrorism. They also lied about Mr. Preddy holding a gun and threatening officers. After Ms. Renee Good was murdered by ICE officials in Minneapolis, administration officials also accused her of being a domestic terrorist and investigated her wife in a clear act of retaliation. The statement Mr. Preddy's mother made after the murder resonated with me more than you'll ever imagine. She said that, and I'm quoting, "The sickening lies told about our son by the administration are reprehensible and disgusting," end quote. And I assure you, I know how it feels to hear lies that are told to justify the taking of someone's son. They were used by my son's murderer as a defense, and those lies still affect me today. He was called a thug, and he was called a gangbanger, and the attorneys from your office actually defended my son's name, his memory, and defended his honor. I'm certain that Mr. Preddy's mother watched videos of her son, Alex, an ICU nurse at the VA hospital, using his phone to record federal agents. She also watched him getting pepper sprayed, kicked, hit in the head, and surrounded by at least 7 agents before having his gun removed from his waistband, which he legally carried. And she watched seconds later as 2 of those agents shot her son Alex at least 10 times.
That's crazy.
Administration was quick to spew an incorrect narrative and call him so many things that they wanted us to ignore the truth that we actually saw with our own eyes. Ms. Bondi, will you denounce the statements that were made to tarnish the names of Alex Preddy and Renee Good, and will you protect their names like those attorneys back in Florida under your watch protected my son's name?
What I will say is we are looking at everything to shed light on what happened that day, and it is an ongoing and active investigation. Both of those cases, and I assure you they will be investigated.
Investigating, we understand that, but will you do everything in your power, as you have done for my case, as you are asked to do, as you've sworn an oath to do? It is your responsibility to make sure that you are following the rule of law. Those families in Minnesota, they deserve the same respect. They deserve a full investigation, which you have not even begun to do yet. So what are you saying, is that they don't deserve any respect for a full investigation into their murders?
Well,
that
that's
is
not
incompetence on your behalf.
Well, that is not
American
accurate.
people do deserve better. Non-commitment to defending the rule of law is what we see from you.
I
will
told you we
always
were
stand up for
investigating.
survivors, and I heard you.
I won't hold you. I thought that Macbeth was kind of going easy on her for a second there. And then she flipped it on it. I kind of feel that Pam Bondi's like, wait a minute now. I'm not on Pam Bondi's side. But it did seem like Lucy Macbeth was coming in real softball, like, hey, your lawyers didn't do this when my son was being mischaracterized in the media. Now you have people in the administration that are mischaracterizing the victims here. So give them the same thing. That's basically what you're saying. And I just thought, okay, cool. It's going to be high level, above board. No, Lucy went there. I love it.
Say earlier when you told us that you will fight for them as well. And based on the information before us, these families have not received the same commitment to investigate what happened to their loved ones, nor have they received the respect that I I would expect from the nation's top law enforcement officer. Investigations have been slow-walked, they've been canceled, and the special agent assigned to Renee Good's investigation resigned
She's disappointed,
following
really, 'cause
pressure
you know you
from
can do
your
better.
officials to reclassify Ms. Good's case.
Time of the
For
gentlelady.
families seeking answers and accountability, the withdrawal of investigative
Time of the
resources is
gentlelady
simply
has
unacceptable.
expired. The gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Attorney General, I get the sense that we've lost a little perspective here. The most fundamental responsibility of government is to protect the lives and property of its citizens. Now, you cited some crime figures in your opening statement, and I wonder if you could repeat them, because I think it's one of the most extraordinary achievements of the Department of Justice in our history. And I don't think some of my colleagues heard you clearly.
Thank you, Congressman. And would you mind if I address something that
Go right ahead.
Congresswoman McBath wouldn't let me address first?
Go right
ahead. The reason that she wants to continue to talk about Minnesota, which we will all day long, is she doesn't want to talk about her own jurisdiction in Atlanta, because she doesn't want to talk about Christopher Welcher, who traveled across state lines to try to meet, and nothing's funny about this, to meet and molest a 14-year-old girl in Georgia. That's why they're watching the clock, the American people should know, for the second it runs out, because they don't want to address anything in their jurisdiction. They're elected to represent people in their jurisdiction. We prosecuted illegal aliens who ran a large-scale meth operation in the Atlanta metro area.
You understand we don't prosecute,
Madam
right, Ms. Bondi?
Madam Attorney General.
Time belongs to
sorry, thank
Mr.
you.
McClintock.
So yes, the statistics I spoke of earlier, Congressman, under the leadership of the FBI, historic work has been done. A drop 20% in the nationwide murder rate in 2025. Least murders in our country since 1900, and that is to the work because of the credit of Donald Trump.
It's not just homicides, is it? It's also other violent crimes, robbery. Could you go through that list real quick?
Yes, Congressman. 100% increase in violent crime arrest in 2025 compared to 2024.
What's that done to the violent crime rate in the country?
It's plummeting. 1,800 gangs.
Wait a second. Do you mean to honestly tell us, and you're under oath, that if we take violent criminals off the streets, we end up with less crime?
I certainly hope so, Congressman, and that's our goal, and that's
an
President Trump's
extraordinary concept, and I'm afraid it may be lost on some of our Democratic colleagues. I look at these numbers, and they're absolutely staggering. It didn't happen by accident. It happened because of specific policies that you've implemented this year. And you mentioned a few of them. Would you continue?
Over 6,000 child victims located, 22% increase. Over 1,700 child predators arrested, 10% increase. Over 300 human traffickers arrested. Let me jump down to DEA right now. That was just FBI. Under Terry Cole's leadership, and I talk to these people almost daily, our directors, and the amazing work that they're doing in all of your jurisdictions on the left and the right, working together to take drugs off our streets.
Right, and I assume that our Democratic colleagues, some of whom represent some of our most crime-plagued cities and communities, have thanked you for this extraordinary accomplishment.
Thank you, Congressman. We've seized more than 9,800 kilos of fentanyl and 47 million fentanyl pills. That affects every single person in this room. It doesn't matter what political party you are. People, everyone in this room knows someone who's died from fentanyl. A parent, a child, a sister, a brother, a friend, a neighbor, a relative. Everyone here knows someone who has been impacted by that. That is the common ground that I wish we could find to work together in this country, to take these drugs off the streets. And someone nodded with vapes.
Well, in your opening statement, you said that this historic success in protecting the lives and property of Americans has occurred when local governments have cooperated with you.
Yes.
Let me ask you, what are the greatest impediments you're facing in bringing down crime across the country?
Well, when local governments, of course, do not cooperate with us, and that's where criminals flee, in jurisdictions where they know they will be protected by local governments. And this is all about working together, and we have shown that in what we did in DC, what we're doing in Memphis, working together with Democrat mayors in these cities, right here in DC.
And very quickly, if you could tell us about the Safe Cities program and give us your read on what cities that avail themselves of this program can expect.
Yes, so far, of course, we've been working in Washington, D.C., right here to do everything we can, working hand in hand with the mayor, with Metro PD, to keep everyone safe in D.C., and it's been a tremendous effort. And now we're in Memphis, working with the mayor in Memphis, as we talked about earlier, doing everything we can. These are iconic cities in our country, and we want to help every city in this country who wants and asks for President Trump's help to make America safe again.
I ain't gonna hold you. Memphis is one of those cities where that's just needed. Like, I ain't gonna hold you. Like, DC,
prisons. I was not in
I feel safe in DC. I had weed delivered to me in DC. I was straight. Memphis, bitch, no. Kirby County, not at all. No, Shelby County, not at all.
Arutska.
I have a couple of
died
other
on a
questions.
subway.
Right, and I absolutely...
You don't talk about that.
I have been talking about it and actually helping with these issues. But we're going to move back to you.
I bet we are.
Yes, of course, because you're here to testify.
Oh, shit.
That's what the whole point of this endeavor is. So, of course, we're moving back to you. It is all about you.
Oh, I gotta love this.
So, as we heard, she took the fifth in response to every single question in that committee hearing. And her lawyer dangled the offer of clemency. Should Donald Trump pardon or commute her sentence? Should she be released from prison, yes or no? You said you hope she dies there, so I'm hoping the answer is no.
I already answered that question.
Good. I'm very glad. I really like this bipartisan agreement about
well, when
what
it
should
agrees
happen
with you.
with her.
But you don't want to talk about Irina Zarutska. You don't want to talk about
I talk about
murdered
her all
by
the
a
time,
violent crime
but
offender
I am not
in
here
your
to
jurisdiction.
testify before Congress. You are. That is your job today.
You're
That's what you're getting paid for.
obsessed with attack.
I want you to know that your own DOJ
That's
employee,
crazy.
he's recently been demoted and had some other problems, advises on pardons. Do you think he will be advising Mr. Trump on any kind of clemency or pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell?
I'm not going to speculate, and you couldn't even identify properly. That's why you don't want to talk about Irina Zarutska. You couldn't properly identify her relative.
I absolutely
it's embarrassing.
Have been, and her family, by the way, appreciates all of the condolences, all of the help, everything that our law enforcement in North Carolina has been doing to help her family. Her family feels well treated. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Gentleman from California is recognized.
I'd ask unanimous consent to enter into the record an article by former Attorney General William P. Barr entitled, "Why Pam Bondi Didn't Publish All the Epstein Files in 30 Days." The answer is simple. It was not possible, from the Wall Street Journal.
Well said. Without objection, the gentlelady from Florida is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Madam, I'm sorry. May I respond 20 seconds to something that Congresswoman Ross said?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. She also opposed a sex offender registry as head of North Carolina ACLU. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Attorney General. And I'd like to pick up where you left off a moment ago, because we convene here today as a committee for the stated purpose of conducting oversight of the Department of Justice. And so it's critical for us to focus first on the mission of the department and assess your success in discharging it. So the mission of the department is to enforce federal law, defend the rule of law, and protect the American people from violent crime, terrorism, drug trafficking, fraud, and exploitation, to promote public safety. And what we have heard today unequivocally is that President Trump's Department of Justice, under your leadership, Attorney General Bondi, is doing exactly that. Just a moment ago, you shared with us some incredible statistics that the United States, under your leadership, has achieved the lowest murder rate in 125 years. That in the first year of this administration, murder is down 21%, Robbery is down 23%, carjacking down 43%, and gun assault down 22%. That is what public safety looks like. Under your leadership and that of President Trump, you've located more than 6,000 child victims of trafficking and exploitation, arrested 1,700 child predators, and apprehended more than 300 human traffickers. Significant increases. And those aren't just statistics, those are precious lives that your department and the men and women of federal law enforcement have saved. Madam Attorney General, you've mentioned a couple of specific criminal trends during this hearing that I'd like to discuss with you further, because one of our important roles in Congress is making sure that our laws and our law enforcement stay ahead of predators as technology evolves. I lead legislation in the House, along with bipartisan co-sponsors on this committee, to make sextortion a clearly defined criminal offense. We actually passed that out of the House of Representatives. We have a bill to promote Operation Renewed Hope to help rescue more child victims, and the Defiance Act to provide legal recourse to victims of deepfake AI intimate images. I would love to hear your perspective and what you are seeing related to these technology-based criminal trends, sextortion, and AI deepfakes. What are you seeing at the Department of Justice, and why do you believe that efforts to combat these types of crimes are important?
Sextortion, and thank you for supporting that, Congresswoman. I think that was a bipartisan effort, actually. I think many of you on both sides of the aisle supported that. Thank you for that. You know, as a career prosecutor, it's horrible seeing that and seeing that young women and often young boys have been exploited with sextortion. And I see, thank you, both sides of the aisle nodding on that. It's horrific. The suicide rates go up. And that's why we have to do everything in our power to protect not only young girls, adult women, boys and men from sextortion, because it is happening and we're doing everything in our power, thanks to your legislation, all of you, to stop that.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about some of the Department of Justice programs like Project Safe Childhood and the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Forces, partnerships that bring together federal, state, and local law enforcement. Sometimes the work between those law enforcement groups together really creates some incredibly powerful outcomes and some great success stories. I know you, as Florida's Attorney General, had a tremendous amount of leadership in our state trying to make sure we were taking care of children, also the elderly, protecting them from fraud, ending drug trafficking. Tell us a little bit about some of those departments within DOJ.
Yeah, when you talked about Project Safe Neighborhoods, we've done a lot of that in Florida when I was state AG, and actually back when I was a state prosecutor prior to being Attorney General. That is so important. I feel like what we've been doing in DC too, with the Take Back DC and Make DC Safe Again, is similar to that. Going into the neighborhoods, working with the community, seeing law enforcement officers out there playing basketball with kids who live in the neighborhood. It's pretty remarkable what we've seen firsthand. Citizens in Memphis saying that they appreciate, they can walk outdoors now and they feel safe. People coming up thanking law enforcement and working hand in hand with them. We will continue all of these programs and working jointly with both sides of the aisle to keep our families safe.
Thank you for that, Madam Attorney General. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Gentleman from Tennessee is recognized.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce for the record a letter to Director Gabbard from Mr. Warner and Mr. Himes, and a letter of response from her to them about who invited her to Atlanta, and a copy of the search warrant. And I'd also like to just make clear for the record, the reason people in Memphis weren't going out was because the ice was on the ground and we were afraid we'd fall. But other than that, we go out all the time.
Gentleman, without objection, is unanimous consent. The gentlelady from Vermont is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Attorney General Bondi, according to your department, a child is sexually abused in the United States every 9 minutes, and the vast majority of survivors never get justice. And that's one of the reasons why I think the Epstein case has resonated so deeply with so many Americans. And the other reason, I think, is because it has revealed a two-tiered system of justice. And the powerful are protected, and the survivors rarely get any accountability. And the Epstein files contain evidence of a multi-decade international criminal conspiracy involving some of the wealthiest and the most powerful people in the world. There's evidence of financial crimes, political corruption, sex trafficking, and of course, horrible sexual abuse. And I want to remind everybody, this isn't a game.
Right.
These are real people.
Right.
People who have suffered, who are sitting here with us today, and they deserve answers, and they deserve accountability. And I'm here to try to get some for them. Now, I've seen some of the unredacted Epstein files, and obviously, as you know, President Trump's name is all over them, but so are the names of other senior Trump officials: Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Commerce; John Phelan, the Secretary of the Navy; and Stephen Feinberg, the Deputy Secretary of Defense. These men were appointed by President Trump to senior positions in his administration. All of them have clear and confirmed ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Attorney General Bondi, yes or no, has the Justice Department asked Secretary Lutnick about his ties to Epstein?
Excuse me. Secretary Lutnick has addressed those ties himself.
I'm asking you, has the Justice Department specifically asked Secretary Lutnick about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein?
He has addressed those ties himself.
Has the DOJ asked Secretary Phelan about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein?
I don't know whether he has addressed those or not.
Has the Deputy Secretary Feinberg talked to the Department of Justice about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein? Yes or no? Has the Department of Justice talked to Deputy Secretary Feinberg about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein, which are clearly spelled out in the files? It's a very simple question. It's not a trick question. I'm just asking you.
Do you know about
I'm
any
stunned that you want to continue talking about
Oh my gosh.
Epstein
Okay,
instead
I'm
of a
reclaiming
Border
my
Patrol
time.
agent
I'm asking
murdered.
you not a trick question, a simple
Stunned.
question. Okay, so what is clear is we have evidence.
Do you know
that
who Chris Malin is?
We have evidence that 3 senior officials within the Trump administration have ties to Jeffrey Epstein. And what
does ties mean?
I can conclude
What does
from what
ties
you are
mean?
saying that you have not talked to them.
What does ties mean? Can
I
you
think
define
Americans would be shocked to learn that you are not interested in talking with these officials who have ties to Jeffrey Epstein.
What does
across
ties
the
mean?
world,
Can you define that?
across the world,
Can you
prominent
define
men
ties?
who've been
Time
exposed
belongs to
in the files have resigned their jobs in disgrace, and that's a good first start. And that same
Disgrace is
standard,
not saying the word
this
Chris
same
Malin.
standard should apply here. And Americans want accountability.
Who is Chris Malin?
Was the president
he?
aware? Please stop talking. It is not your time to ask
was he?
questions. It is not your time. I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. Chair.
1 second.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from Vermont.
Was the president aware of Secretary Lutnick's ties to Epstein when he chose him to lead the Department of Commerce? Was he aware?
Chris Malin was a Border Patrol agent.
Okay, so
He
I'm
was
going to
shocked,
conclude
and
that
she
the president, in
never
fact,
mentioned
did
him
know about his
in
ties
her
because he
district.
was the next door neighbor.
Shame on you.
Oh, for goodness sakes,
You're
this
from
is
a tiny,
pathetic.
beautiful
This is
state.
pathetic,
The
Mr.
committee will
Chair.
be in order.
I am not asking trick questions here. The American people have a right to know the answers to this. These are senior officials in the Trump administration. This is not a game, Secretary.
I'm Attorney General.
My apologies, I couldn't tell. By 2008, we knew that Epstein was a convicted sexual abuser. And we now know that Lutnick went to Epstein's Island in 2012. How was that not a deal breaker for the president? And why aren't you asking questions of the Commerce Secretary about what he saw when he was at the island, which he lied about not ever going to? Why are you not asking these questions? And I see that my time is almost expired, so I will say this. Do the right thing, Attorney General. Meet with the survivors. They have been asking for a year. Meet with the survivors. Do the right thing. I yield back.
Damn, she
Lily is
snapped.
back. The gentleman from South Carolina is recognized for 5 minutes.
May I have 20 seconds of his time?
So that'll be up to the gentleman, but.
Absolutely, Madam
Thank you, thank you. I was curious if you, Congresswoman, asked Bill Clinton that. Didn't see one tweet, not one. I didn't see one tweet when Joe Biden was in office about Bill Clinton. Didn't ask Merrick Garland anything about Epstein, not once when he was
Weak
here.
sauce.
And
Weak sauce.
also, I want the record to reflect that, you know, with this anti-Semitic culture right now, she voted against a resolution condemning.
Oh,
from the
is
river
Jewish. I just want to be
as
clear.
anti-Semitic.
Do you want to go there, Attorney General? Do you want to go there?
They about to throw
Are you
belongs to the
serious?
gentleman
Talking
from
about
South
anti-Semitism
Carolina.
to a woman who
Lady
lost her grandfather in the
I reclaim
Holocaust?
my time. I reclaim
Really?
my time.
Really?
The committee will be in order.
Oh,
Talk to
shit.
Jared Wise about anti-Semitism.
Oh,
Ranking
shit.
member knows that.
Can I get like 30 seconds?
Ah, bitch, you about to turn
I've
up in
been
this bitch. Let's
The
go.
whole committee knows I've been very
Thank you.
making sure everything's for 5 minutes in the
Attorney
same.
General, I'm going to talk about sanctuary cities for a second, which limit the federal government's
heard
ability
that
to
chat?
enforce immigration law.
Listen,
The kind
Pam
of a
Bondi
new
about to
thing
get
that
swung on, dog.
Democrat jurisdictions are doing. They're in violation of federal law. During President
That's
Trump's
crazy.
first term, he
Y'all heard that,
rightly
man?
targeted sanctuary jurisdictions to try to force them to cooperate with federal immigration law. Federal immigration law, mind you, that was voted on in
Hey,
1996. most
J.L.
recently,
Reed, good
in a
question.
bipartisan Congress, signed by a Democrat president.
Here they go.
But they are in violation of that law.
Here they go.
These states and jurisdictions feel entitled to certain grants, of course. Y'all are combating that. Do sanctuary policies limit the federal government's ability to accurately estimate how many criminal illegals are in the country?
Yes.
Thank you. This means that the number of illegals could be higher, probably higher. Does this hurt the federal government's ability to carry out immigration laws designed by Congress?
Yes, Congressman.
In your opinion, do you believe that the Biden-Harris administration and Democrat pro-sanctuary policies make our communities safer and for the American taxpayer? Do sanctuary policies make our communities safer?
No, Congressman.
I want to do a brief video to highlight sanctuary cities. So what's strange to me, if you look at this board behind me, in New York, there are 7,000 criminal illegal aliens since January 20th of last year that have been released into the public because New York is not honoring detainers requested by ICE. California, similarly, has released 4,500 criminal illegal aliens. There are 33,000 under detainer in California alone. And of the people released, I think it's remarkable that those released in New York, 29 homicides, 2,500 assaults, almost 200 burglaries. These are people that are released into our community by these states that refuse to cooperate. Last August, Michael Jordan Castellano Fonseca, a criminal illegal alien with ties to Tren de Agua, shot 2 people in front of 5 children in the sanctuary state of Colorado. DHS lodged a detainer on him. He's awaiting trial, but the question is whether Colorado's sanctuary policies will prevent him from being removed from the country. Yes or no? Do you think that sanctuary jurisdictions, if they cooperated with ICE, those illegals in custody could be transferred to ICE properly instead of being held in taxpayer-funded jails and then released into our community?
Yes, Congressman.
Wouldn't it be more efficient and safer then if Democrats simply cooperated with the federal government, these sanctuary jurisdictions cooperated with the federal government and honored ICE detainers? And why? Why do you think?
Of course, because so many criminals are running to sanctuary jurisdictions. Many of your colleagues across the aisle who we've seen speaking today about Epstein don't want to talk about the illegal criminals in their own jurisdiction for that reason. And yes, we need to do everything we can to work together to make America safer, and they're not doing that.
This is not a partisan issue. People want to feel safe in their communities. Nobody wants a criminal illegal alien released into the street. I think the thing that maybe the American people don't quite understand is that when you do not honor a detainer, as we've seen, an illegal is released into the public, and now it's up to ICE to maybe apprehend them, rather than behind the courtroom passing them off from one law enforcement to the next. Is that true?
Absolutely.
What do you think what is the Department of Justice doing right now to combat sanctuary policies in our country?
We're doing everything in our power, obviously, to combat that. Donald Trump is doing everything he can because we are going to make America safe. We are going to get illegal criminal aliens out of this country. We're going to get the gangs out, TDA, MS-13, all of the gangs in this country. We're going to get the drug dealers out and the drugs, and that's what we've been fighting to do. And I wish we could do it on a bipartisan basis, but they just can't do it.
And the decrease in numbers speak for themselves. Thank you for your work.
Gentleman's time
Mr.
is...
Chairman, we have some UCs, if that's okay.
That is okay.
Can we get back to something good, though? It's kind of boring.
You see on the National Institute of Justice's study on undocumented immigrants having an offender rate lower than U.S.-born citizens. I'd like to enter this in the record from 2024.
Without objection.
And I have several myself, Mr. Chairman. The Guardian, January 26, 2026, why is Trump granting clemency to convicted fraudsters?
Objection.
January 2026, NBC, Trump's pardons forgive financial crimes that came with hundreds of millions of dollars in punishment.
Objection.
Washington Post, December 19, 2025, Trump's pardons wipe out payments to defrauded victims.
Without objection.
And finally, May 30th, 2024, Trump found guilty by Manhattan jury on 34 felony counts of fraud.
Well, damn.
Without objection. The gentleman from Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Attorney General Bondi, glad you finally made it here after hiding for 4 months from this committee.
God damn.
I understand
Whoa, I
why
thought
you're
you were
hiding from us.
Chairman?
You're one of the worst attorney generals in our history and an instrument of Donald Trump's lawless authoritarian agenda, and I'm glad the American people are seeing who you are, how you act, and the lack of good values. You weaponize the Department of Justice to target immigrants, working families, and anyone that Trump deems an enemy of the state, all to protect real powerful criminals, including in your administration. My Democratic colleagues have focused on your cover-up of the Epstein files and your passion for protecting pedophiles and child traffickers. That alone is grounds for impeachment. But there's so much more to your corrupt tenure as Attorney General. You directed prosecutors to investigate elected officials in welcoming jurisdictions, and you got thrown out of court when you sued Chicago, Cook County, and Illinois. You directed prosecutors to prioritize low-level immigration cases while gutting enforcement against corporate criminals.
Hold on, y'all. Hold on. My bad. I gotta restart my OBS again. It's just acting up. System keep freezing. I don't know what it is. But I'll be right back. Give me like 10 minutes for on the restart. I'll be back. We're gonna tap back in. We gotta catch Jasmine Crockett live. That's all it is. That's all it is.